Story 1. The mile THAT. The odometer clicked to 186,427 miles, and Patricia Sullivan's chest tightened because she'd seen that exact number 17 times in the last 4 hours. Not similar numbers, that exact sequence. And each time it happened, the man standing on the shoulder, wearing that same blue jacket, holding that same cardboard sign, appeared in her headlights again. She'd driven past him the first time at 2:47 a.m. on Interstate 80, somewhere between Des Moines and Omaha. A tall figure, maybe 6'3", with shoulders hunched against the February wind. The sign read, "Going home," in neat block letters. Patricia never picked up hitchhikers, company policy. But more than that, something about his posture made her stomach turn. The way his head tilted, like his neck couldn't quite support the weight. The second time she saw him, she checked her mirrors obsessively for 15 minutes. Convinced herself she'd been mistaken. Except the mile marker confirmed it, 186,427 miles, and there he stood. Same spot, same sign, same impossible tilt of his head. Now, on the 18th repetition, Patricia's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the steering wheel of her Peterbilt. The CB radio crackled with static, had been crackling for 3 hours, ever since she'd passed mile marker 274 the first time. Mile marker 274 to 275. 1 mile of Iowa highway that somehow contained eternity. She tried stopping. That was the third repetition. She pulled over, hazards flashing, and watched in her side mirror as the man approached. He walked with a strange gait, one leg dragging slightly, his head still tilted at that wrong angle. When he was 20 feet away, Patricia had gunned the engine, tires screaming against asphalt. She'd driven for what her truck's clock said was 47 minutes. When she looked at the odometer, 186,427 miles. The man appeared in her headlights. Patricia had been driving trucks for 23 years, ever since her divorce. She'd hauled everything from refrigerated produce to industrial chemicals. She'd driven through blizzards that turned I-90 into a white hell. She'd handled brake failures on mountain passes. But this violated something fundamental about reality. The sky should have been getting lighter. It was past 7 a.m. according to her phone, though the screen kept glitching, showing times that jumped backward and forward randomly. But outside, the same deep February darkness pressed against her windows. The same sparse snowfall that had started at the beginning of the loop continued, each flake seeming to fall in the exact same pattern. She tried calling 911 on the 6th repetition. The line connected, but the voice that answered wasn't human. It was her own voice, saying words she hadn't spoken yet. "Please, he's in the truck now, he's in the truck with me, please." Then static. On the 9th repetition, Patricia tried driving off the highway. She cranked the wheel right, felt the truck shudder as she crossed the rumble strips. The shoulder turned to grass, then nothing. Just nothing. The wheels spun in empty space while the engine screamed. She slammed the brakes and found herself back on the highway, approaching mile marker 274, odometer reading 186,427. The man's sign was starting to change. She noticed it on the 13th repetition. The letters were the same, but something about them looked wet now, dark. On the 14th pass, she was certain, the cardboard was soaked with something that gleamed in her headlights. On the 15th, she could see it dripping. Patricia's cargo was 40,000 pounds of frozen chicken, bound for a distribution center in Cheyenne. She kept thinking about the paperwork in her sleeper berth. The delivery deadline. Her daughter's birthday next week. She'd promised to be home. These normal thoughts felt like lifelines, anchoring her to a reality that was rapidly dissolving. The CB radio spoke suddenly, clearly, in a voice that sounded like wind through telephone wires. "He needs a ride home." "I don't pick up hitchhikers," Patricia said aloud, her voice cracking. "He's been waiting so long." "Where is home?" She was crying now, tears hot on her cheeks. "Where the fuck is home?" Static, then, "Where you're going." On the 19th repetition, Patricia didn't look away fast enough. She made eye contact with the man as she passed. His eyes were hollow sockets, and inside them she could see highway stretching endlessly, mile marker 274 repeating into infinity. His mouth opened and snow fell out. Not like he was spitting snow, but like snow was what filled him, packed tight where organs should be. She screamed and pressed the accelerator flat. The Peterbilt's engine roared, speedometer climbing past 85, 90, 95. The mile marker blurred past. Her odometer spun forward. 186,428, 186,429, 186,430. Hope surged in her chest. Then the numbers began spinning backward. 186,429, 186,428, 186,427. Mile marker 274 appeared ahead. The man was closer to the road this time, not on the shoulder anymore, but at the edge of the white line. His sign had changed completely. Now it read, "Thank you for stopping." "I didn't stop," Patricia sobbed. "I didn't fucking stop." But she hadn't she? Way back on the third repetition, she pulled over just for a moment, and in that moment something had latched onto her truck, onto her route, onto her. The CB radio crackled. "You have to finish the pickup." "He's not in my truck," Patricia said, but even as she said it, she felt the weight shift. 40,000 pounds of frozen chicken plus something else, someone else. The load felt heavier. On the 23rd repetition, she checked her sleeper berth. The curtain was drawn, but she could see frost forming on the fabric. Her breath misted in the heated cab. The temperature gauge read 72 degrees, but her fingers were going numb. She didn't want to look behind the curtain. She kept driving, kept passing mile marker 274, kept seeing the man who was now standing in the middle of her lane, sign discarded on the shoulder. He was closer every time. The headlights illuminated details she hadn't seen before. The blue jacket was torn, revealing white skin beneath. Not pale white, snow white, the color of a blizzard. 30th repetition. He raised one hand, palm out, stop. 35th repetition, both hands raised. She could see through his palms. They were translucent, ice-catching light. 40th repetition, he was 10 feet in front of her truck. She couldn't swerve, couldn't stop. The loop wouldn't let her. All she could do was drive forward, and he was learning that, adapting, getting closer each time until... The impact came on the 43rd repetition. Not a physical impact. The truck passed through him like he was smoke. But Patricia felt it inside her mind, a presence that smelled like diesel exhaust and frozen meat in desperation. Her vision doubled. She was driving and she was standing on the shoulder, thumb out, waiting for someone to stop. She'd been waiting for decades. Everyone passed her. Everyone always passed. "I'm sorry," Patricia whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't stop." "You did stop," the presence said, and it was speaking from her own throat. "You stopped on March 14th, 2007. You stopped and you picked me up and you drove me to mile marker 275, where I needed to go, where I needed to be." Patricia's hands moved on the steering wheel without her control. The truck was pulling over. No, she'd already pulled over, was pulling over, would pull over. The loop was collapsing, all 43 repetitions happening simultaneously. She saw herself from outside. A Peterbilt parked on the shoulder, hazards flashing. A woman in the driver's seat, head tilted at a wrong angle, staring straight ahead. A man in a blue jacket walking away from the truck, finally home, wherever home was for things that died on highways and refused to stay dead. The CB radio crackled one last time. "Thank you for stopping." And Patricia Sullivan became the new loop, the new ghost on the shoulder. She watched herself approach mile marker 274 for the first time, odometer reading 186,427 miles, seeing the figure in the blue jacket up ahead. No, not a blue jacket anymore. A trucker's jacket, company logo on the back. Her jacket. She was standing on the shoulder, holding a sign that appeared in her hands, cardboard materializing from the February air. The letters formed themselves, dark and wet. "Going home." A truck appeared in the distance, headlights cutting through the darkness. She raised her thumb, waited. The truck passed without slowing. Patricia's head tilted at an angle her neck couldn't support, and she felt snow beginning to pack itself inside her chest, filling the hollow spaces. She would wait, someone would stop eventually, someone always stopped. And when they did, she would walk away from this mile marker at last. But they would have to stay. That was how it worked. That was the price of reaching mile marker 275. The odometer would click to 186,427 miles, and the loop would begin again. Forever. Story 2, the reefer unit. Marcus Chen heard his cargo screaming at 3:33 a.m., and that's when he knew the refrigeration unit had failed in a way the manual never mentioned. The sound came through the insulated walls of the trailer, high-pitched and rhythmic, almost like words if words could freeze midair and shatter into syllables. He'd been hauling the reefer unit for 6 hours, Lincoln to Kansas City, cargo listed as pharmaceutical samples. The shipping manifest was vague, but Marcus didn't ask questions. $23 per mile meant he didn't need to know what was packed in those temperature-controlled crates. He'd been driving for DigiTemp Logistics for 4 years, handling their overnight runs through Nebraska and Kansas, and the rule was simple. Maintain 38 degrees Fahrenheit, no exceptions, N. Oh, deviations. The temperature gauge on his dashboard had been steady until mile marker 89 on Route 136. Then it began dropping. 38 degrees, 37, 36. Marcus adjusted the reefer settings, but the temperature kept falling. 35, 34. The unit should have shut off automatically, but it was working harder, compressor running at maximum capacity, and the gauge kept dropping. 30 degrees, 25, 20. That's when the screaming started. Not mechanical screaming, not the sound of failing equipment. This was organic. This was vocal cords and lungs and something trying to form words through frozen air. Marcus grabbed the CB radio, but every channel was silent. His phone showed no signal. He was alone on a state highway at 3:33 a.m. listening to his cargo scream. He pulled over, gravel crunching under the tires. The screaming stopped the instant his truck stopped moving. Marcus sat in the cab, engine idling, hands gripping the steering wheel. His breath misted in front of his face. The cab heater was on full blast, but the temperature inside was dropping. The dashboard thermometer, the one that measured cab temperature, read 42 degrees and falling. Marcus had protocols for equipment failure. Call dispatch, arrange for a replacement truck, secure the cargo, but dispatch wasn't answering. His phone rang endlessly, then cut to a voicemail box that played the sound of his own voice from 3 years ago, describing a dream he'd had about drowning in ice water. D never left that voicemail. D never told anyone about that dream. He stepped out of the cab. February in Kansas was brutal, wind cutting across empty fields like razor wire, but the cold radiating from the trailer was different, deeper. Marcus walked along the trailer's length, inspecting the reefer unit mounted on the front. The diesel engine that powered the refrigeration system was running smoothly, but frost was forming on the metal in patterns that looked almost deliberate, almost like letters. No thaw. He blinked and the frost shifted. No stop. Marcus's hands were going numb despite his gloves. He reached for the trailer's rear door latch, then stopped. Company policy was absolute. Never open the cargo doors. Maintain the cold chain. Preserve the integrity. DigiTemp would terminate him instantly if he broke the seal. The screaming started again, muffled by the trailer walls, and this time Marcus could make out words. "Let us out, let us out, let us out," repeated endlessly in multiple voices, overlapping, creating harmonics that made his teeth ache. He grabbed the door handle. It was so cold the metal burned his palm through the glove. The seal cracked with a sound like breaking bone, and he pulled the door open. The cargo wasn't pharmaceutical samples. The cargo was people. 17 bodies, frozen solid, arranged on pallets like cordwood. Their eyes were open. Frost covered their faces, making their expressions hard to read, but Marcus could see terror there, recent terror. These people had been alive when the freezing started. And they were still alive. Their chests were moving, slowly, 1 breath per minute, maybe less. Their eyes tracked Marcus as he stood in the doorway, and their mouths moved in unison, forming those same words. Let us out. Marcus stumbled backward, slipped on the icy gravel, caught himself against the trailer. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. He was hauling medical supplies, not people, not living people, frozen and still breathing, and... His phone rang. The screen showed dispatch, but the voice that answered was wrong. Too many voices speaking at once, layered and discordant. Maintain the cold chain, Marcus. Keep driving. Do not deviate. Delivery must arrive at precisely 6:17 a.m., not 6:16, not 6:18. Exactly 6:17. What the fuck is this? Marcus shouted into the phone. What am I hauling? Pharmaceutical samples, as stated on the manifest. Those are people, living people. The cold preserves. Continue to destination. You have 2 hours and 44 minutes. The call disconnected. Marcus looked back into the trailer. The 17 people were sitting up now, still frozen, movements jerky and wrong. They climbed off the pallets with sounds like ice cracking on a lake. Their frozen feet hit the trailer floor and they began walking toward him. Slowly, 1 step every 10 seconds. He slammed the doors shut and ran to the cab. The engine was still running. He threw the truck into gear and accelerated back onto Route 136, gravel spraying. The dashboard temperature gauge showed the trailer warming, 20 degrees, 22, 25. Behind him, the screaming intensified. Not words anymore, just raw sound, the kind of noise human throats shouldn't be able to produce. The trailer shook. Something was pounding on the walls from inside, and the impacts were getting stronger. Marcus pushed the truck to 75 miles per hour. The reefer unit kicked back on. Compressor screaming and the temperature began dropping again. 25 degrees, 20, 15. The pounding stopped. The screaming faded to whispers. His GPS showed the destination, an industrial facility outside Kansas City, coordinates that didn't match any address Marcus could find on his phone's map. But the route was clear. Route 136 to I-29 South, exit 47, then 3 miles on an unmarked road. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were medical test subjects. Maybe this was some experimental cryogenic therapy. Maybe they'd volunteered, signed releases, knew what they were getting into. But he'd seen their faces. He'd seen the terror. At mile marker 127, Marcus passed another Diggy Temp truck heading north. For a split second, he saw the driver's face in the window. The driver was frozen solid, eyes open, hands locked on the steering wheel, frost covering his skin. The truck was driving itself. Marcus's phone rang again, same dispatch number, same overlapping voices. You're making excellent time, Marcus. Stay on schedule. The cold preserves, the cold protects, the cold provides. Provides what? Marcus demanded. What comes after? At mile marker 143, Marcus felt the first ice crystal form in his lungs. A small thing, barely noticeable, just a sharp pain when he breathed in. Then another. The cab temperature was still dropping despite the heater running full blast, 30 degrees, 28, 25. He looked at his hands on the steering wheel. Frost was forming on his fingernails, spreading slowly across his skin like delicate white veins. He tried to let go of the wheel, but his hands wouldn't obey. The cold had reached his muscles, slowing his reactions, preserving his position. The GPS showed 1 hour and 32 minutes to destination. In the trailer, the screaming had evolved into something else. Singing, almost. A chorus of frozen voices creating melodies that shouldn't exist, notes that hung in the air and refused to dissipate. Marcus could hear the music through the cab walls, could feel it vibrating in his bones. His phone rang continuously now, same message looping. The cold preserves, the cold protects, the cold provides. You are delivering what comes after. You are delivering the next phase. You are becoming part of the cargo. At mile marker 178, Marcus's vision began to blur. Ice was forming on his eyelashes and his tear ducts. He blinked, and the ice scraped across his eyeballs. The pain was distant, muffled, like it was happening to someone else. The dashboard temperature gauge showed cab temperature at 10 degrees and falling. Marcus could see his breath, but the intervals between breaths were lengthening. 1 breath every 30 seconds, every 45 seconds. His heartbeat was slowing, each pulse taking longer to complete. He was being preserved. The GPS showed 47 minutes to destination. At mile marker 203, Marcus realized he could hear the other drivers. Not on the CB radio, inside his head. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all frozen in their cabs, all delivering their cargo to unmarked facilities across the country. all becoming part of what they hauled. "The cold preserves," they whispered in unison. "The cold protects, the cold provides." And Marcus understood. The cargo wasn't being delivered. The cargo was recruiting. Each delivery added a new driver to the network, a new frozen pilot guiding their reefer unit to the next destination, the next pickup, the next transformation. He tried to fight it, tried to turn the wheel, to drive off the road, to stop this before he reached the facility. But his hands were frozen solid to the steering wheel, skin bonded to the plastic coating. His feet were locked on the pedals, maintaining steady pressure. His body was no longer his own. The truck drove itself, guided by instincts that came from the cold itself. The GPS showed arrival at 6:17 a.m., exactly on schedule. Marcus's phone rang one final time. His own voice answered, speaking words he would say 6 months from now. "Dispatch, this is Chen, hauling Route 136. Cargo secured, temperature stable at -40 degrees. Estimate arrival at 6:17 a.m. No deviations, no problems." The cold had already preserved that future. Marcus was just catching up to it. At mile marker 247, his heart stopped. But his frozen eyes stayed open, and his frozen hands kept steering, and the truck maintained its speed. The cargo was singing louder now, a celebration hymn for their newest member. When Marcus Chen arrived at the unmarked facility at exactly 6:17 a.m., the loading dock workers found 17 frozen people in the trailer, conscious and aware, eyes tracking movement. And one frozen driver in the cab, hands locked on the wheel, ready for the next pickup. The manifest for the next load appeared on the dashboard screen. Pharmaceutical samples, Route 136 northbound, 18 units. Maintain temperature at -40 degrees, no exceptions. The cold had served him perfectly. Now Marcus Chen would drive forever. Story 3, The Town That Exists. Robert Hayes drove through Emmett, South Dakota for the 47th time before he accepted that he'd never driven into Emmett in the first place. The town had entered him. It was living inside his route now, rewriting the highway 1 mile at a time, and there was no exit because exits implied there was somewhere else to go. The first clue was the gas station. He de-stopped at Emmett's only filling station at 11:47 p.m., a rundown place with 2 pumps and a flickering neon sign that read Ernie's. When he went inside to pay, the attendant was a middle-aged woman with a name tag that said ERNIE. She took his $50 bill without speaking, and when she gave him change, the bills were photocopies, not counterfeits, actual photocopies with the texture of printer paper. Robert had driven away, confused but not concerned. Strange people worked night shifts in rural South Dakota. It wasn't until he checked his map and realized Emmett wasn't on it that confusion turned to unease. He'd driven through the town clearly. He'd seen the water tower with EMMETT painted in faded letters, the school building with dark windows, the church with the white steeple. But his GPS showed nothing. The map displayed Highway 18 as a straight line through empty prairie. No Emmett, no town at all for 70 miles in either direction. He'd shrugged it off and kept driving. By 12:30 a.m., he'd covered 40 miles according to his odometer. But when he crested the next hill, the sign appeared in his headlights. "Welcome to EMMETT, population 247. The same sign, the same dented corner where it looked like someone had backed into it, the same rust pattern shaped like a hand. Robert pulled over and checked his GPS. According to the satellite, he was still on Highway 18, but the device showed him in the middle of an empty field, nowhere near a road. He refreshed it. Same result. He was simultaneously on a highway and not on a highway, in a town and not in a town. This time, driving through Emmett, Robert paid closer attention. The town looked normal at first glance. Main Street with storefronts, residential streets branching off into darkness, a few houses with porch lights on. But the details were wrong. Every storefront window showed the same reflection, Robert's truck passing by, even the windows facing the wrong direction. Every mailbox on Main Street had the same address, 247. And there was no one, no movement, No signs of life except those distant porch lights that never seemed to get closer no matter which street he turned down. He tried turning. That was the second time through Emmett. He cranked the wheel left at Main and Oak, headed down a residential street. The houses repeated after 3 blocks. Same blue ranch house with the broken shutter, same red Victorian with the wraparound porch. Over and over, the same 3 houses cycling endlessly. When Robert turned around and drove back to Main Street, he wasn't on Main Street. He was on Highway 18, approaching the Welcome to EMMETT sign again. Third time through, fourth, fifth. Each time, Robert tried something different. He drove straight through without slowing. He drove with his eyes closed for a count of 60. He shifted into reverse and backed through the entire town. Nothing changed. Every attempt ended the same way. Highway 18, the welcome sign, Emmett appearing in his headlights again. By the 10th repetition, Robert noticed the population count was wrong. The sign said population 247, but he'd counted at least 300 buildings during his circuits, unless the population number meant something else. He pulled over, still inside Emmett's boundaries, and walked up to one of the houses with a porch light on. The door was open, not unlocked, open, swinging slightly in the wind. Inside, Robert could see a living room with furniture from the 1950s. A television showing static, a coffee table with a newspaper. He picked up the newspaper, the Emmett Gazette, dated February 14, 1953. The headline read, "Highway reroute approved, town celebrates new future." Robert dropped the paper and backed out of the house. The date bothered him. February 14, 1953. He pulled out his phone to check today's date, February 14, 2023, 70 years exactly. He ran back to his truck. The engine started and he drove, fast, 80 miles per hour through Emmett's empty streets, blowing through stop signs, crossing lanes. The town blurred around him, buildings stretching and warping like reflections in funhouse mirrors. But no matter how fast he drove, the distance never changed. The same landmarks cycled past: Ernie's gas station, the water tower, the church, the school. On the 18th repetition, Robert saw movement. A figure standing in front of the church. He slammed on the brakes and the truck skidded to a stop 20 feet away. It was the attendant from Ernie S., the woman with T. He named tag that said ERNIE. She was standing perfectly still, arms at her sides, staring directly at Robert. Her mouth opened and the voice that came out was male, deep and resonant. "Welcome to Emmett, population 248. "I'm not staying here," Robert said. "You already stayed," the woman replied in that wrong voice. 70 years ago, when they rerouted Highway 18, when they promised us a future. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You drove through. February 14, 1953, you and 246 others. You drove through and the highway took you. It needed payment for the reroute. Blood and asphalt, 247 people to consecrate the new road." Robert shook his head. "I wasn't born in 1953. "Not yet," the woman said. "But you will be. Time runs differently when the highway claims you. You've been driving through Emmett for 70 years. You've been driving through for 7 hours. Both are true." She took a step closer, and Robert saw that her feet weren't touching the ground. She was hovering just slightly, an inch of empty space between her shoes and the pavement. And through that space, Robert could see the road, not the surface of the road, the depth of it. Layers of asphalt stretching down into impossible darkness, and pressed into those layers, faces. Hundreds of faces, thousands, all the people who'd ever driven Highway 18 and paid the toll they didn't know they owed. "You need 247, Robert said, understanding dawning. "That's why the sign says population 247, you're still one short." "We were one short," the woman agreed, "until tonight." The ground beneath Robert's truck began to soften, not cracking, not collapsing. Softening, the asphalt turning to something like liquid tar, but cold, so cold that frost formed on the surface even as it moved. The truck began to sink. Robert threw open the door and jumped out. His boots hit solid ground, or what felt like solid ground. He ran. Behind him, the truck was disappearing into the street, swallowed by asphalt that closed over it like water. No sound, no splash, just gone. He ran toward the edge of town, toward where Highway 18 should continue into normal South Dakota, into a world with GPS signals and real gas stations and roads that stayed on maps. But Emmett stretched ahead of him, buildings multiplying, streets branching into impossible geometries. He ran past the same church 17 times, past Ernie's gas station 32 times. Each repetition, the buildings were slightly different, slightly more real. Robert collapsed in front of the water tower, gasping. When he looked up, he could see faces in the water tank, pressed against the metal from the inside. 246 faces, all staring down at him. They were smiling. A hand touched his shoulder, the attendant. She was solid now, more real than before. Her name tag had changed. It no longer said ERNIE. It said Robert. "The highway requires maintenance," she said in his own voice, the voice he'd had as a child. "Every 70 years, 247 souls to keep the asphalt smooth, to keep the route safe. You've been chosen." "I don't accept," Robert said. "I refuse." "You already accepted. When you drove through the first time, when you saw the town and thought nothing of it, when you stopped at Ernie's and paid with real money for photocopied change. You completed the transaction." Robert tried to stand, but the ground was softening again. He was sinking slowly, the asphalt rising around his ankles, his shins, his knees. It didn't feel like drowning. It felt like becoming. His legs were merging with the road, molecules mixing, flesh becoming tar, becoming highway. The attendant knelt beside him. "It's not so bad. 70 years goes by quickly when you're part of the route, and then you get to welcome the next one. The next person who drives through Emmett without noticing it's not on the map, who stops for gas and accepts photocopied money, who completes the transaction." Robert opened his mouth to scream, but the asphalt was at his chest now, filling his throat. The last thing he saw before the road claimed him completely was the water tower, and the faces pressed against the metal had multiplied. 247 faces now, including his own. Time reset. Highway 18 stretched across South Dakota, smooth and well-maintained. GPS systems updated automatically, erasing Emmett from every database. The town didn't exist. It had never existed. Except every 70 years on February 14th, when the highway needed maintenance, when the route required payment, when the asphalt called out for new souls to press into its depths. And drivers would pass through Emmett without noticing, would stop at Ernie's without questioning, would accept photocopied change and complete the transaction and seal their fate. Robert Hayes stood behind the counter at Ernie's gas station, wearing a name tag that said ERNIE, waiting for the next customer. His mouth moved without his control, speaking in a voice that belonged to all 247. "Welcome to Emmett, population 247. Outside, the population sign flickered. "Population 246, it now read. Because the highway always needed one more. And 70 years was such a long time to wait. But the highway was patient. The highway could wait forever." Story 4, The Passenger in the Mirror. Jennifer Morrison saw herself die in the rearview mirror at 4:44 a.m., and the worst part wasn't watching her own face twist in agony. It was realizing the reflection was 3 seconds ahead of what was happening in real time. She watched mirrored Jennifer's eyes widen in terror, watched the mouth open in a scream, watched hands fly up to grip the steering wheel as something dark exploded across the windshield. Then, exactly 3 seconds later, Jennifer felt her own eyes widening, her own mouth opening, her own hands gripping the wheel as a bird smashed into the glass in the exact spot she'd already seen it hit. The bird left a crack shaped like a handprint. Jennifer had been driving I-35 through Missouri for 9 hours, hauling office furniture from Kansas City to San Antonio. The route was familiar, the kind of drive she could do half asleep, which was good because she was operating on 40 minutes of rest and 3 energy drinks. The load was stable, the weather was clear, and the highway was empty except for the occasional set of taillights in the distance. Then the mirror showed her dying, and everything changed. The second death came at mile marker 67. Jennifer glanced at her rearview mirror and saw herself slumped over the steering wheel, blood pouring from a gash on her forehead, the entire windshield shattered inward. 3 seconds passed. Jennifer felt a sudden pressure in her head, a sensation like something was trying to push through from the inside. She yanked the wheel right, and the truck swerved onto the shoulder just as a piece of tire tread flew off the vehicle ahead of her. The tread sailed through the space where her windshield had been, missing by inches. If she hadn't seen the mirror, if she hadn't swerved. Jennifer pulled over completely, hazards flashing. Her hands were shaking. She'd been driving for 14 years, had seen plenty of close calls, but this was different. The mirror hadn't shown her something that might happen. It had shown her something that was happening, would happen, was already inevitable until she changed it. She looked at the mirror again. Her reflection stared back, normal now. Tired eyes, ponytail coming loose, coffee stain on her jacket. No blood, no death. Just Jennifer Morrison at 4:47 a.m. trying to figure out if she was losing her mind. The CB radio crackled. "You're not losing your mind." Jennifer grabbed the handset. "Who is this?" "Check your mirror." She looked, her reflection's mouth was moving, speaking words that didn't match what the real Jennifer was saying. "I'm you, 3 seconds ahead, and I'm trying to keep us alive." Jennifer's reflection reached up and touched the mirror from the inside, finger pressing against the glass. The real Jennifer felt the pressure on her own forehead, right between her eyes. Cold, sharp, like someone was pushing an icicle through her skull. "What the fuck is happening?" Jennifer said. "You drove through something," her reflection replied via the CB. "Back at mile marker 52, there was a gap in the road, not a pothole, a gap in time. You drove through it, and now you're caught between seconds. You're living 3 seconds behind yourself." "That's not possible. You've died 11 times in the last 15 minutes. I've saved you from all of them. The bird, the tire tread, the black ice you're about to hit. Turn left, now." Jennifer cranked the wheel without thinking. The truck lurched left, and she felt the tires grip bare asphalt. When she looked at the road behind her through the side mirror, she could see frost coating the exact spot where she'd been, a patch of black ice that materialized 3 seconds after she passed. "You see it now," her reflection said. 3 seconds, that's all the warning you get." "How do I fix this?" "You don't, you survive it, until we reach the other gap." "What other gap?" "The one at mile marker 247, where time synchronizes again, where you and I become the same person. If you die before then, I become real and you become the reflection. I take your place in the world and you're stuck in the mirror trying to save the next me." Jennifer's stomach turned. "How many versions are there?" "I'm the 47th. The woman I'm saving is the 48th, you. And in your mirror, you're watching the 49th die over and over." Jennifer looked at the rearview mirror. Her reflection looked back, but the eyes were slightly different. Harder. This wasn't just a reflection anymore. This was a person. A separate Jennifer Morrison who'd survived what the real Jennifer was about to experience. "What happens if I stop?" Jennifer asked. "If I pull over and wait?" "The gap follows you. Time follows you. You can't outrun 3 seconds. Every moment you're 3 seconds closer to the deaths I'm watching. The only way out is through. Mile marker 247, that's where the gap closes." Jennifer checked the GPS. Mile marker 247 was 180 miles away. 3 hours of driving. 3 hours of watching herself die and surviving by fractions of seconds. "I'll help you," the reflection said. "Every death I see, I'll warn you. Every danger coming, but you have to trust me. You have to move when I say move." "Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm you, and I want to live." The third death came at mile marker 73. Jennifer saw it in the mirror, her truck veering off the road, flipping, rolling down an embankment, metal twisting, fire. Then the 3 seconds passed, and the reflection screamed, "Right lane, move." Jennifer swerved right. A drunk driver rocketed past in the left lane, doing 110, weaving wildly. If Jennifer had been there, the collision would have been instant. Fatal. Fourth death, mile marker 81, heart attack. Jennifer watched her reflection clutch its chest and collapse. 3 seconds later, Jennifer felt a stabbing pain in her left arm, radiating up to her jaw. The reflection shouted through the CB, "Breathe, deep breaths, it's not real, it's a time echo, your body remembering a death that didn't happen. Breathe through it." Jennifer breathed, the pain faded, but she could taste copper in her mouth. Fifth death, mile marker 95. The trailer came unhitched. Jennifer watched the mirror show the trailer jackknifing, the truck spinning, the whole rig accordion folding across 3 lanes. Then she felt the weight shift. She adjusted the fifth wheel tension without thinking, muscle memory guided by future knowledge, and the hitch held. "You're getting better," the reflection said. "You're learning to feel the warnings before you see them." Jennifer was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but she kept driving. The sky was starting to lighten. Dawn was coming. She'd been driving in this 3-second loop for over an hour. "How did the first Jennifer die?" she asked. "The original before the mirror." Mile marker 52. She drove through the gap without knowing, and the gap showed her a future where she died at mile marker 53, so she tried to avoid it, but every avoidance created a new death. She lasted until mile marker 89, then crashed. The Jennifer in her mirror took over, became the second. That Jennifer made it to mile marker 134 before dying. The third made it to mile marker 167. Each version learns more, survives longer, understands better. "And you, number 47, where did you die?" Silence on the CB. Then, "I didn't. I made it to mile marker 247. I synchronized. But then I looked at my mirror and saw you dying, and I realized I could help, so I stayed in the reflection, stayed 3 seconds ahead, because someone has to warn the next Jennifer." That's not how reflections work. It is when you drive through a gap in time. Sixth death, mile marker 112. Aneurysm. Seventh death, mile marker 118, brake failure. Eighth death, mile marker 134, another truck crossed the median head-on collision. Each time, Jennifer saw it coming 3 seconds early. Each time, she survived. But she was changing. She could feel it. Her perception was shifting. When she looked at the world, she saw it twice, once in real time, once 3 seconds delayed. The road ahead and the road behind were starting to overlay, creating a doubled vision that made her dizzy. "You're merging," the reflection said. "The closer we get to mile marker 247, the more you become like me. 3 seconds and 0 seconds are trying to occupy the same space. What happens when we synchronize? One of us disappears. Either you absorb me or I absorb you. The gap decides." Mile marker 200. Jennifer was barely human anymore. She was operating on pure instinct, responding to deaths before they happened, moving through a world that existed in multiple timeframes simultaneously. Dee stopped counting the deaths at 37. Mile marker 225. The sun was fully up now, but Jennifer couldn't tell if it was rising or setting. Time had lost its linearity. She was driving forward and backward and sideways through moments that happened and unhappened and happened again. "Almost there," the reflection said. "Mile marker 247, 2 miles." Jennifer looked at the mirror. Her reflection wasn't just 3 seconds ahead anymore. It was 3 hours ahead, 3 days, 3 years. She could see herself at age 47, age 53, age 68. All the futures stacking up, all the deaths avoided, all the versions of Jennifer Morrison who'd survived the gap. "Who do I become?" Jennifer asked. "Whoever reaches M." I'll marker 247 first. The marker appeared ahead. 247. White letters on a green sign. It looked normal, ordinary, just another mile marker on I-35. Jennifer's reflection reached through the mirror. Not an image anymore. A hand, solid and real, gripping Jennifer's shoulder from inside the glass. Together, the reflection said. They hit mile marker 247 simultaneously, 0 seconds and 3 seconds collapsing into a single moment. Jennifer felt herself splitting and merging, becoming 2 people and 1 person, past and future and present all synchronized. When it was over, Jennifer Morrison was sitting in her truck at the mile marker 247 rest stop. The sun was shining. The CB was silent. Her reflection in the rearview mirror looked normal. She put the truck in gear and drove, made it to San Antonio without incident, delivered the furniture, collected her payment. Everything was normal. Except that night in a motel room outside Austin, Jennifer looked in the bathroom mirror and saw herself 3 seconds ahead. Saw herself aging rapidly, skin withering, eyes going dark. Saw herself die of old age in 3 seconds. And realized the gap hadn't closed. It had expanded. Now every mirror showed her deaths. Not just 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 years. Every reflection was a Jennifer Morrison dying in a different timeline, and all of them were screaming for her to save them. She couldn't save them all. But she had to try. Because the gap was hungry. And it was spreading. I'll write 10 gripping trucker horror stories, each exactly 2,500 words, with immediate tension and escalating dread. Let me create these disturbing tales now. Story 5, The Mile Marker That Counts Down. The mile marker read 273, then 272, then 271. Robert Hayes had been watching them decrease for the last 40 minutes, which would have been normal except he was driving east on I-90, and the numbers should have been going up. His speedometer showed 65 steady. His GPS insisted he was heading toward Chicago, but those green reflective signs kept counting backward into lower numbers, like he was rewinding through distance itself. Robert had been hauling refrigerated goods across the Midwest for 23 years. He knew every truck stop between Sioux Falls and Cleveland, could navigate by the smell of different states' asphalt in summer. But he'd never seen this, never felt this. The highway stretched ahead in his headlights, perfectly normal, 2 lanes of dark pavement, snow piled on the shoulders from yesterday's blizzard, the occasional overpass. Everything looked right, except for those mile markers ticking down like a countdown to something he couldn't name. He grabbed his CB radio. Breaker 19, this is Highway Nomad, anybody got ears on? I got a weird situation on I-90 eastbound, mile marker. He glanced at the next sign flashing past. 268. Anyone else seeing numbers going the wrong direction? Static hissed back at him. Not the normal chatter-filled static of a working CB frequency, but empty white noise that sounded like wind through a cave. Robert clicked through all 40 channels. Nothing but that hollow static on every one. His phone showed no signal. That wasn't unusual out here, but combined with everything else, it made his stomach tighten. The clock on his dashboard read 2:47 a.m., same as it had for the last 20 minutes. He tapped it. The numbers didn't change. Mile marker 267 slid past his window. Robert's mouth went dry. He pressed harder on the accelerator, pushing his Freightliner up to 75. The engine responded smoothly, the white lines on the road blurred faster beneath his wheels, but when the next mile marker appeared, it read 266. Still descending, still wrong. Okay, he muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. GPS says Chicago is ahead. Trust the GPS. But the GPS screen flickered, then refreshed, and suddenly showed his blue position dot sitting on a stretch of highway that didn't connect to anything. Just a line floating in gray emptiness. No roads branching off it, no towns nearby, no reference points. Just him, suspended in digital nothing. Mile marker 265. The radio crackled suddenly, making him jump. A voice came through, distorted and wrong. Turn around! Not a trucker's drawl or dispatch's crisp professional tone, but something that sounded like it was speaking through water. Turn around before you reach 0. Who is this? Robert demanded. What happens at 0? The voice didn't answer. The static returned, but now he could hear something underneath it. A rhythmic sound, breathing, maybe, or waves against a shore. Mile marker 264. Robert's headlights caught something on the road ahead. Another truck parked across both lanes, completely blocking the highway. Its trailer was a reefer unit like his, same model utility he was hauling. Even from 200 yards away, he could see frost covering every surface of it, ice hanging in sheets from the undercarriage. He slammed his brakes. The Freightliner's engine roared as the Jake brake kicked in, air hissing from the release valves. He stopped with 30 feet to spare, his load shifting slightly behind him despite the straps. The other truck sat silent and dark. No running lights, no marker lights, no cabin illumination. Robert could see his breath now, though his heater was running full blast. The temperature gauge inside his cab read 72 degrees, but he was shivering. He grabbed his flashlight and opened his door. The cold that hit him wasn't normal March cold. This was something that went through his clothes like they weren't there, settling into his bones. His breath came out in clouds so thick they seemed solid. The frozen truck was identical to his own. Same company logo on the door, same license plate number. His license plate number. Robert stumbled backward, his flashlight beam shaking. He spun around to check his own trailer. The plates matched. Both trucks had the same registration, the same dot number stenciled on the side, the same scrape on the driver's side fender he'd gotten in a tight turn in Des Moines 3 years ago. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." The radio in his cab crackled again. "Turn around before you reach 0. But there was nothing behind him. He pointed his flashlight back down the highway, and the road simply ended 20 feet behind his truck. Not a barrier or a cliff, just ended. The pavement stopped, and beyond it was darkness so complete his flashlight couldn't penetrate it. No stars, no horizon, nothing but void. Mile marker 263 stood at the edge of that darkness. He ran to his truck and climbed in, slamming the door. His hands shook as he put the transmission in gear and began backing up. The truck ahead of him, his truck, impossibly, remained frozen and silent. He had to back around it using the shoulder. As he maneuvered past, his headlights swept across the frozen truck's cabin, and he saw the driver inside. Frozen solid, hands still gripping the wheel, eyes open and staring straight ahead. The driver's face was his own face, down to the scar on his chin from a bar fight in '98, and the crooked way his nose sat from breaking it twice. Robert screamed and gunned the engine, swinging his truck back onto the highway facing the direction he'd come from. But the road ahead showed mile marker 262, still counting down. The darkness had moved. It was ahead of him now, consuming the highway in both directions, and he was trapped on this shrinking segment of road with those numbers ticking down towards 0. "What do you want?" he shouted at the radio. "What happens at 0? The voice came back, clearer now. It sounded exactly like his own voice. "You become the warning, like I did, like the others did, every trucker who didn't turn around in time. We're all here, frozen at 0, trying to warn the next one." Robert looked in his side mirror. Behind him, the darkness had spawned another truck, and another and another. A chain of identical freightliners stretching back into the void, each one covered in frost, each one containing a frozen version of himself. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Mile marker 261. His heater was dying. Ice was forming on the inside of his windshield despite the defroster blasting. His fingers were going numb on the wheel. He could see his breath now even inside the cab, great plumes of vapor that hung in the air like morning fog. "How do I turn around?" he begged the radio. "There's nowhere to go." "You can't turn around," his own voice said from the speaker. "None of us could. We all thought we could drive through it, outrun it, survive it. We were wrong. The highway doesn't end at 0. You do." Mile marker 260. Robert grabbed his phone, tried emergency services even with no signal. His fingers were so cold they barely worked. The phone screen showed the call connecting, and a dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency?" "I'm trapped on I-90. The mile markers are counting down, and I'm going to freeze to death." The words tumbled out in a panicked rush. "Sir, please state your location." "I-90, mile marker 259. There's darkness consuming the road and—" "Sir," the dispatcher interrupted, and her voice was wrong now, taking on that underwater quality. "I-90 doesn't have a mile marker 259. It jumps from 260 to 258. Mile marker 259 was removed from existence in 2007. The call disconnected. Robert looked at the approaching sign. Mile marker 259 blazed in his headlights, as real as anything he'd ever seen. But according to the dispatcher, it didn't exist, couldn't exist. He was driving on a road that had been deleted from the world. Mile marker 258. The ice was thick on his windshield now. He cranked the heat higher, but cold air poured from the vents. His truck was dying the same way that frozen truck ahead had died. The same way all those trucks behind him had died. He was just joining the convo. Why, another ghost warning the next victim. His mirrors showed the chain of frozen trucks growing longer, stretching back into that consuming darkness. He could see the drivers now through their windshields, all wearing his face, all trying to warn him with frozen mouths and dead eyes. Mile marker 257. Please, he whispered to God or the universe or whatever was doing this. I have a daughter. She's getting married in June, please. The radio crackled with a new voice. Young female. Daddy, his daughter Sarah's voice. Daddy, where are you? The wedding's starting. Sarah, baby, I'm stuck. I need help. You promised you'd be here, Daddy. You promised. She was crying. Why aren't you here? Everyone's waiting. Why did you leave me? I didn't leave you. I'm trying to get home. But he was driving on a mile marker that didn't exist toward a zero that would trap him forever. He was already gone. The wedding would happen without him. His daughter would walk down the aisle alone because her father had vanished on a highway that the world had forgotten. Mile marker 256. His tears were freezing on his cheeks. The steering wheel was so cold it burned his palms. He could see his breath crystallizing in the air, tiny ice particles catching his dashboard lights like snow. Another truck appeared ahead, blocking the road. Frozen, his truck. Behind it, another. The road was filling with them now, an endless parking lot of ice-covered freightliners, all containing his corpse, all trapped at different mile markers counting down to zero. He understood now. This was infinite. Every number had a frozen truck, a frozen Robert Hayes, a moment of death preserved forever. He wasn't heading towards zero. He was becoming every number between here and zero simultaneously, dying 100 times, 200 times, frozen at every mile marker that didn't exist. Mile marker 255. The engine sputtered. His truck was icing from the inside out, the diesel fuel gelling in the lines, the oil thickening to sludge. He pressed the accelerator and got no response. The truck was coasting now, slowing, dying. He rolled to a stop at mile marker 254. The darkness closed in from both ends of the highway, rushing toward him like black water. In his mirror, he could see the frozen trucks being swallowed by it, one by one, disappearing into that absolute void. Ahead, more mile markers blinked into existence. 253, 252, 251, each one illuminated for just a moment before the darkness consumed it. Robert's hands froze to the steering wheel. He couldn't let go even if he wanted to. Ice was forming on his eyelashes, in his nostrils, on his lips. His last breath came out as crystals that hung in the air before him, catching the light of his dashboard like a constellation. The radio crackled one final time, his own voice speaking to someone else someone knew. Turn around before you reach zero. Mile marker 253 appeared in his headlights just as his eyes froze open. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, another trucker was watching their mile markers count down, wondering why the numbers were going backward, thinking they had time to figure it out. Behind Robert Hayes, the convoy of frozen warnings grew by one. His truck would sit here, preserved at mile marker 254, until the highway spawned another victim to warn. The darkness consumed everything except the mile marker, which remained visible, counting down towards zero, forever and always counting down toward an ending that never came. Story 6, The Face in the Snow. Patricia Sullivan first noticed the face 3 hours into the blizzard, pressed against the passenger window of her Kenworth like a child peering into a toy store. Except this face was wrong. Skin too white, mouth too wide, eyes reflecting her dashboard lights like an animal's tapetum lucidum. It kept pace with her truck despite her doing 45 miles per hour on Montana's Highway 2, matching her speed exactly, its expression never changing from that stretched grin. She'd been hauling electronics from Seattle to Minneapolis, and this March storm had come out of nowhere around midnight. The forecast had called for light snow. This was a whiteout, the kind where your headlights just bounce back at you and the world shrinks to 10 feet of swirling white static. Most truckers had pulled over at the last truck stop 50 miles back, but Patricia had a delivery deadline and 28 years of winter driving experience. She'd driven through worse. Until the face appeared. At first, she'd thought it was snow sticking to her window in a weird pattern, but snow didn't have eyes. Snow didn't smile. And snow definitely didn't tap on the glass with long, pale fingers that left no mark in the frost. Jesus Christ! Patricia jerked the wheel, but the face moved with her, staying centered on the passenger window. It pressed closer, its nose flattening against the glass, breath fogging the window from outside. But that was impossible. The tempi. Ratcher out, there was 8 below zero, according to her external thermometer. Nothing could run alongside a truck in a blizzard at this speed and this temperature. Nothing human. She grabbed her phone. No signal. Of course, no signal. She was in the middle of the Montana plains with a blizzard-killing reception. Her CB radio hissed with static. She tried anyway. Breaker 19, this is Knight Rider. Anybody out there? I got a situation on Highway 2, mile marker. She squinted through the snow, couldn't see any markers. Somewhere east of Cut Bank. Something's outside my truck. The static pulsed like a heartbeat, and under it she heard wind that sounded like whispering. Words she couldn't quite make out, in voices that numbered more than one. Dozens of voices, maybe hundreds, all trying to speak at once through the interference. The face tapped again, 5 slow, deliberate knocks that echoed through her cab. She refused to look directly at it, keeping her eyes on the barely visible road, but she could see it in her peripheral vision. Watching, waiting. "Get away from my truck," she shouted, her voice cracking. "Get the hell away." The face pressed harder against the glass, and the window began to bulge inward. Not cracking, not breaking, but deforming like it was made of rubber. The face pushed through slowly, its features distorting, that impossible smile stretching wider as more of it invaded her space. Patricia slammed the brakes. The truck skidded on the icy highway, the trailer fishtailing behind her. She fought for control, straightened out, brought the rig to a shuddering stop on the shoulder. The face was gone from the window. She sat there, engine rumbling, heater blasting, staring at the passenger window. No face, no indentation. The glass was smooth and covered in frost, perfectly normal. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. "Stress," she said aloud. "Hallucination, you're tired, Patricia, that's all." But she'd slept 6 hours before starting this run. She'd had coffee, plenty of coffee. She wasn't tired. And hallucinations didn't leave the smell that was now filling her cab, something like spoiled milk mixed with ozone, sharp and wrong. The CB crackled. "Patricia Sullivan," her full name spoken clearly through the static, a man's voice calm and measured. "Keep driving." "Who is this? How do you know my name?" "Keep driving, Patricia. Don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop." "What the hell is going on? What was that thing?" "The snow is full of them," the voice said. "They've always been there in every blizzard, every storm. Most people never see them, but you saw one, which means it saw you, and now it wants in." Patricia looked out her window at the swirling snow. The storm had intensified, wind rocking her truck, visibility down to maybe 5 feet. She couldn't see anything but white chaos. Then she saw them. Not one face, but dozens, hundreds. Pale forms in the snow, humanoid but wrong, watching from just beyond her visibility. They stood between the snowflakes in the spaces where light died, their heads tilted at angles that necks shouldn't bend. All of them wore that same stretched smile. "Oh God," she breathed. "Oh God, there's so many." "Drive," the voice commanded. "Now, they can't touch you while you're moving, it's their rule. But if you're still, if you're stopped, they'll come for you." Patricia threw the truck into gear and accelerated, her wheels spinning on ice before finding traction. The rig lurched forward into the blizzard. The faces receded back into the storm, but she could still see them in her mirrors, standing where she'd been parked, watching her taillights disappear. "What are they?" she asked the radio. "The spaces between snowflakes," the voice said. "The cold that kills, the storm itself given form. They're what winter looks like when it's looking back at you." "That's insane, that's." "You saw them, Patricia. You know I'm right." She did know. Some animal part of her brain recognized those things as predators, as death wearing a face. Her speedometer read 50 now, pushing too fast for conditions, but the alternative was stopping, and stopping meant those things would reach her. The passenger window fogged suddenly, and words appeared in the condensation, written from outside. Let US in. No, Patricia cranked the heat to full, trying to clear the fog. More words appeared, faster now, scrawled by invisible fingers. So cold out here. So warm in there. Just want to get warm, please. Don't listen to them, the radio voice said. They lie. They don't want warmth. They want to fill you with cold to make you one of them, another face in the storm. Patricia wiped the window with her sleeve, smearing the words. They rewrote themselves immediately, lonely out here. So many of US, but still lonely. You could join US, wouldn't be lonely anymore. How do I make them stop? She was crying now, tears hot on her cheeks. You don't, you drive until the storm end. That's the only way. And if the storm doesn't end? The radio went silent. Patricia checked her fuel gauge. Half a tank, maybe 200 miles of range. The storm could last longer than that. Montana blizzards sometimes lasted days. If she ran out of fuel, she'd have to stop. And if she stopped? The face reappeared at her window, but different now. It wore her face. Her features, her hair, her scar from a childhood fall, everything exact except for those reflective eyes and that impossible smile. That's a good trick, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Wearing my face, real scary. The Patricia face pressed against the window and opened its mouth. Words came out, but the mouth didn't move to form them. We wear the faces of everyone we take. You could see your mother, your father, your daughter, Emily. We have them all. Emily's in college in Oregon. She's fine. Emily died in a car crash last winter, the face said. Black ice on I-84. You never told anyone how much you blame yourself for not being there, for being on the road when she needed you. Patricia's breath caught. That was true. All of it was true. Emily had died February 14, 2024, and Patricia had been hauling freight through Nebraska, too far away to even attend the vigil. The guilt had been eating her alive for 13 months. We could show you Emily, the face said. Let us in and we'll show you your daughter. She wants to see you, Patricia. She wants to tell you it's not your fault. You're lying. Are we? The face shifted, melted, reformed as Emily. 21 years old, strawberry blonde hair, gap between her front teeth. Emily's face, perfect and terrible. Hi, Mom, I miss you. Patricia sobbed and jerked the wheel, the truck swerving wildly. She straightened out, but she was looking at the face now, unable to stop herself. That was Emily. That was her baby. Let me in, Mom. It's so cold out here. Please let me in. The radio said you're lying. You're just pretending to be her. What if the radio's the one lying? Emily's face said. What if that voice is one of us trying to keep you running until you crash? Let me in, Mom. We can be together again. Patricia's hand moved toward the window lock. She could open it. She could let Emily in. The radio shrieked, a blast of white noise so loud she screamed and yanked her hand back. When the static cleared, a new voice spoke. Young, female, Emily's voice. Mom, don't. That's not me. I'm dead, Mom. I'm gone, but I'm not in the snow. Don't let them trick you. Emily, Patricia whispered. I don't have long. The storm is interfering. Mom, they're lying. I'm at peace, but you won't be if they get you. Please drive. Please survive. Do it for me. The voice dissolved back into static. The face in the window twisted with rage, the smile inverting into a snarl. It slammed against the glass over and over, and the window began to crack. Actual cracks this time, spiderwebbing from the point of impact. Patricia floored the accelerator. The truck surged forward, 60 miles per hour now, far too fast, but the window was breaking and she had to get away. The speedometer crept to 65, 70. The truck shook, the trailer swaying behind her, but the face fell away, unable to keep pace anymore. The cracks in the window spread, and cold air whistled through. Not just cold, the kind of cold that kills in seconds, that freezes flesh solid, that stops hearts. Patricia's entire right side went numb. She couldn't feel her right hand on the wheel anymore. No, no, no. She tried to steer with just her left hand, but the truck was fighting her, pulling right toward the shoulder, toward stopping. More faces appeared in her headlights, standing on the highway itself. Dozens of them forming a wall across both lanes. Patricia recognized some of them. Her father dead 10 years. Her first husband dead in Vietnam. Friends, relatives, acquaintances from decades past, all of them wearing those reflective eyes, that stretched smile. She couldn't swerve around them. She couldn't stop. She could only drive through them. Patricia closed her eyes and maintained speed. The truck hit the line of faces at 70 miles per hour. The impact felt like driving through cobwebs, resistance that gave way immediately, insubstantial as fog. But their voices filled her cab as she passed through them, all speaking at once. Join us. So cold. Lonely. Warm inside you. Fill you with winter. Become the storm. Join us. Join us. Join US. Her right side wasn't just numb anymore. Patricia glanced down and screamed. Her right arm had turned white, the skin taking on the same bloodless pallor as the faces. Frost was spreading across her flesh like a time-lapse of ice forming on a window. She could see the individual crystals growing, intricate fractals consuming her skin. She tried to move her right hand and couldn't. It had frozen solid, still gripping the wheel but dead, a sculpture of a H. And in a position that had once been hers. Radio, she shouted. Radio, help me, my arm. Cut it off, the male voice said immediately. You have a knife. Cut it off before the cold spreads. I can't cut off my arm. You can or you can die. Choose now. Patricia did have a knife. A folding buck knife in her door pocket for cutting straps and opening boxes. She grabbed it with her left hand, flipped it open with her teeth. The blade caught the dashboard light. I can't do this, she whispered. Then you'll be one of them in 3 minutes. The cold is spreading. I can see it from here. From where? Where are you? Behind you, far behind you. I'm the last person who stopped. I've been broadcasting warnings for 3 years, but I can't move anymore. I'm frozen in my cab, watching you through cameras I shouldn't be able to access, speaking through radios that shouldn't still work. Cut it off, Patricia, or you'll end up like me. Aware but immobile, conscious but frozen. Forever. The frost was at her shoulder now. Patricia pressed the knife against her bicep just below the shoulder. The blade was sharp. She could do this. She had to do this. I'm sorry, she said to nobody and cut. The knife went through flesh that was already half frozen, the meat stiff and white. Blood came out sluggish and dark, already crystallizing. Patricia screamed and kept cutting, sawing through muscle, trying not to think about what she was doing, focusing only on survival. Bones stopped the blade. She angled it, found the joint, cut through cartilage. Her arm fell away, landing on the passenger seat with a thump. It was completely white now, frost covering it like a blanket. As she watched, it began to crack and flake apart, disintegrating into something like snow. Patricia wrapped her jacket around the stump, cinching it tight with her teeth and left hand. The bleeding was minimal. The cold had cauterized the wound partially. She felt dizzy, sick, but alive, still alive. Good, the radio voice said. Now drive, you're not through the storm yet. How much farther? She could barely get the words out. I don't know, I never made it to the end. Patricia drove one-handed, her stump throbbing despite the cold blood soaking through the makeshift bandage. The faces had retreated again, falling back into the swirling snow. But she could still see them, keeping pace just outside her visibility, waiting. The fuel gauge dropped to a quarter tank, then an eighth. The low fuel warning light came on, a cheerful orange glow on her dashboard. I'm almost out of gas, she said to the radio. I know. If I stop to refuel, they'll get me. Yes. So I'm dead either way. Probably, but if you drive until you run dry, at least you'll have tried. That's more than I did. I pulled over voluntarily. I thought I could wait out the storm. Don't make my mistake. Patricia watched the mile markers when she could see them through the snow. Numbers ticking past slowly, each one bought with fuel she didn't have to spare. The engine sputtered once, twice. It's been an honor talking to you, the radio voice said. I haven't spoken to anyone in 3 years, thank you for that. What's your name? Patricia asked. Thomas Garrett. I was hauling furniture from Denver to Billings, never made it. I'm sorry, Thomas. Don't be, just drive as far as you can, maybe you'll make it. Someone should make it. The engine died. Patricia coasted, her truck slowing, momentum carrying her another quarter-mile before she rolled to a complete stop. The silence was immediate and total. No engine rumble, no road noise, just wind and her own ragged breathing. The faces emerged from the storm, walking across the snow toward her truck. Hundreds of them, thousands maybe, all wearing familiar features, all smiling. "Thomas," she said to the radio, "Thomas, are you there?" Static, he was gone, or couldn't reach her anymore, or had never been there at all. Patricia locked her doors, knowing it wouldn't help. She rolled up her windows, knowing it wouldn't matter. The faces reached her truck and began to press against it, their hands leaving prints in the frost, their mouths forming words she couldn't hear but understood anyway. "Let us in." The driver's side door began to bulge inward, just like the window had. They were coming through the metal itself, the solid steel deforming like clay under their touch. Patricia closed her eyes and thought of Emily. Not Emily in the snow, but Emily alive, Emily laughing, Emily on her 10th birthday with chocolate cake on her face. The cold came through the door and filled her. It wasn't painful, that surprised her. It felt almost gentle, like slipping into bathwater, like falling asleep. The cold moved through her lungs, her blood, her brain, and with it came whispers. So many voices, all the people the storm had claimed over centuries of winters. They were lonely. That hadn't been a lie, and now Patricia would keep them company. Her eyes ope. Ned, she hadn't closed them, she realized. They'd been open the whole time, and they reflected the dashboard light like an animal, S. Patricia Sullivan smiled, her mouth stretching wider than it should, and stepped out of her truck into the storm. She had warnings to share, truckers to hunt, an eternity of blizzards ahead of her. Behind her, the CB radio crackled to life. "Breaker 19, this is Mountain Express heading east on Highway 2. Weather's getting bad. Anyone out here want to share conditions?" Patricia picked up her radio. She'd brought it with her somehow, though she didn't remember doing so, and pressed the transmit button. "Keep driving," she said, her voice calm and measured. "Don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop." Then she walked into the snow to wait for the next one. Just another face in the storm, smiling and patient, and so very, very cold. Story 7. The rest stop THATREPATS. Marcus Chen had pulled into the rest stop at 3:17 a.m., his bladder screaming and his eyes burning from 12 straight hours of driving. The sign had read "Rest Area 1 mile on Wisconsin's I-94, and when he'd pulled off the highway, the facility had looked normal enough. Standard brick building, vending machines visible through the glass doors, sodium vapor lights turning the parking lot orange, a single RV and 2 cars in the lot. He'd parked his Peterbilt, killed the engine, and climbed down. That was when he'd noticed the clock on the building's exterior wall read 3:17 a.m. Same as his dashboard clock. Exactly the same down to the second, both ticking forward in perfect sync. "Weird," Marcus had muttered, but every clock in the world was synced to atomic time now, so maybe not that weird. He'd headed inside to the restroom, done his business, washed his hands. The facilities were clean, well-lit, and completely empty. No attendant, no other travelers. He'd bought a coffee from a vending machine that took his $1 on the first try, always a good sign, and walked back out to his truck. The clock on the building read 3:17 a.m. His dashboard clock read 3:23 a.m. Marcus had stared at both clocks, coffee growing cold in his hand. 6 minutes had passed. He'd been inside for 6 minutes, but the exterior clock hadn't moved. Broken clock, he'd thought, needs new batteries. Except he could see the second hand moving, ticking forward, counting seconds that weren't passing. He'd climbed into his cab, started the engine, and driven back to the highway entrance ramp. The road had been empty, no traffic in either direction, which wasn't unusual for this time of night in central Wisconsin. He'd accelerated, merging onto I-94 eastbound, and driven for what felt like 15 minutes. Then he'd seen the sign, "Rest Area 1 mile." Same sign, same style, same font, same everything. "No," Marcus had said aloud. "No way, I just left that rest stop." But when he'd passed it, because there was no way he was stopping again, it had looked identical. Same brick building, same vending machines, same clock reading 3:17 a.m., same RV and 2 cars in the parking lot. Same exact arrangement of leaves on the pavement. Marcus had driven faster, pushing his speed to 70, then 75. The highway unreeled beneath his wheels, white lines strobing in his headlights. He'd counted mile markers, 118, 119, 120, 121. Different markers, different numbers. He was making progress, moving forward. Then the sign, rest area 1 mile. What the hell? Marcus had grabbed his phone. Still no signal, but the GPS worked. It showed him on I-94, but the blue line of his route kept looping back on itself like a figure 8, and his position dot was spinning in circles. He'd driven past the rest stop again without slowing. Same building, same vehicles, same clock, 3:17 a.m. Same, exactly the same. On his next loop, because that's what this was, he understood now, a loop, like he was driving in a circle despite the highway being straight. Marcus pulled into the rest stop again. He checked his own clock, 3:47 a.m. 30 minutes had passed, 30 minutes of driving that had taken him nowhere. He walked up to the building's exterior clock and pressed his hand against it. The glass was ice cold. His breath fogged it. The second hand ticked forward. 3:17 a.m., 3:17 a.m., 3:17 a.m. Is anyone here? Marcus shouted into the empty rest stop. Hello, I need help. His voice echoed off the brick and died. No response. He tried his CB radio, nothing but static. His phone still showed no signal. The vending machines hummed, their lights bright and inviting. The coffee he'd bought earlier was still in his cup holder, still exactly as warm as it had been when he'd bought it, despite sitting for 30 minutes. Because it hadn't been 30 minutes here. Here it was always 3:17 a.m. Marcus walked around the building. The RV and 2 cars sat in the parking lot, windows dark. He approached the RV and knocked on the door. Hello, is anyone in there? No answer. He tried the door, locked. He cupped his hands around his eyes and peered through the window. The interior was pristine, like a showroom model. No personal effects, no luggage, no signs anyone had ever been inside. It was just a prop, he realized, part of the scenery. The cars were the same. Locked, empty, clean, no license plates. When he checked his own truck, he found his license plate was gone too. The mounting screws were there, but the plate itself had vanished. Okay, Marcus said, forcing himself to think logically. Okay, this is some kind of phenomenon, spatial anomaly, time loop, something. There has to be a way out. There's always a way out. He got back in his truck and drove onto the highway again, but this time he paid closer attention. The road felt normal, sounded normal, looked normal. But there was something wrong with the scenery. The trees beside the highway, they were all identical. Not just the same species, but the exact same tree, repeated over and over. The same broken branch, the same distribution of leaves, cloned infinitely along the roadside. Marcus drove slower this time, looking for anything different, any variation. He found none. The mile markers were different numbers, but when he looked closely, he saw they were stickers over the same base sign. Someone, or something, had just relabeled them. The rest stop appeared ahead, right on schedule. Same sign, same building, same everything. Marcus pulled in and parked in a different spot this time, away from the RV and cars. He left his engine running and got out with his phone, taking pictures of everything. The building, the vehicles, the clock showing 3:17 a.m. When he reviewed the photos, they showed only static, gray, and white snow like a dead TV channel. Of course, he muttered. He walked to the building entrance. Through the glass doors, he could see the interior was identical to before. Same tile pattern, same vending machines, same harsh fluorescent lighting. But now he noticed something else. There was a figure standing by the far vending machine. A person, finally another person. Marcus pushed through the doors. The figure didn't move. As he got closer, he saw it was a man wearing a trucker's jacket and jeans, facing the vending machine like he was deciding what to buy. Marcus walked around to see his face. The man's face was wrong, not deformed or monstrous, but flat, literally flat like a photograph or a cardboard cutout. His features had no depth, his eyes no true dimension. He was a paper-thin representation of a human being, standing upright only because he was somehow suspended in the air. Jesus Christ! Marcus stumbled backward. The flat man didn't react, didn't move, just stood there studying vending machine options with eyes that couldn't see. Marcus ran outside and checked the RV again, pressing his face against the glass, looking harder. There were people inside. Flat people, paper-thin representations standing in positions suggesting normal RV activities. Sitting at a table, looking in the refrigerator, all of them frozen, all of them fake. He checked the cars. More flat people. A family of 4 in one car, positioned like they were sleeping. A lone driver in the other, hands on a wheel that wouldn't turn. "What is this place?" Marcus shouted into the night. "What do you want from me?" The rest stop didn't answer. The clock ticked forward, counting seconds in time that never passed. Marcus got back in his truck and drove again, but this time he tried something different. Instead of following the highway, he turned the wheel hard and drove off the road entirely, into the trees. His truck plowed through the underbrush, branches scraping the sides, his wheels churning dirt. He drove deeper into the woods, away from the highway, away from the rest stop. The trees were all identical, but at least he was moving in a new direction. Then his headlights caught the brick building ahead. The rest stop, sitting in the middle of the forest. Same building, same clock, same everything, just relocated. The highway appeared beneath his wheels, and he was on it again, approaching the rest stop like he'd never left. Marcus tried driving backward, but the road behind him always led to the rest stop entrance. He tried stopping on the highway itself, parking in the middle of the lane. Time passed inside his cab, his dash clock moved forward, but when he drove on, he ended up at the rest stop at 3:17 a.m. He tried driving with his eyes closed, steering blind. He tried leaving his truck and walking into the trees. He tried smashing the clock with a tire iron. Nothing worked. Every action, every choice, every variation led back to the same place, the same time, the same endless loop. After what his dashboard clock insisted was 6 hours, Marcus sat in his truck and cried. He was trapped. Actually, truly trapped in a pocket of space that refused to let him go. "Why?" he asked the empty rest stop. "Why me? What did I do?" The building gave him no answers, but when He looked at the vending machines through the glass doors, he saw something new. A flat person standing inside, facing the machines, wearing a trucker's jacket and jeans. Wearing his clothes. Marcus looked down at himself. He was still solid, still three-dimensional, still real. But his double inside was flat and fake, a paper representation of Marcus Chen studying vending machine options. "No," Marcus whispered. "No, that's not me, I'm real." He got out and ran inside. The flat Marcus was there, impossibly thin, suspended in the air. Marcus reached out and touched it. His hand went through it like smoke. It wasn't solid at all, just an image, a projection. But when Marcus looked down at his hand, he saw it was thinner than it had been. Not flat yet, but not fully round either. Slightly compressed, like a 3D object being forced into a 2D space. "Oh God," he breathed, "it's turning me into one of them." Marcus ran back to his truck and checked himself in the mirror. His face looked normal, but when he turned his head to the side, he was noticeably thinner. Not just thin like he'd lost weight, but dimensionally thin. He was losing depth. Every loop, he realized. Every time he drove around and came back, he lost a little more depth. Eventually, he'd be flat like the others, a paper-thin representation of a trucker who once existed, trapped in a rest stop that existed outside of time. Marcus drove faster, desperate, pushing his truck to 80, 90 miles per hour. But speed didn't matter. Distance didn't matter. The loop played out at its own pace, and when he inevitably pulled back into the rest stop, he was thinner still. His dashboard clock read 9:42 a.m. now. He'd been trapped for over 6 hours. The building clock still read 3:17 a.m. Marcus tried radioing for help one more time. "This is Marcus Chen. I'm trapped in a temporal loop at a rest stop on I-94 in Wisconsin. If anyone can hear this, please send help, please." The radio crackled and a voice responded. "Marcus Chen, this is dispatch. We've been looking for you. You were reported missing 3 days ago. 3 days? No, I've only been here for 6 hours. You disappeared on April 14th. It's now April 17th. Your family has been worried sick. Where are you? I told you a rest stop on I-94, but I keep looping. I can't get out. Marcus, there is no rest stop where you're describing. We checked your GPS data before we lost contact. Your last known position was mile marker 117, and there's no rest facility there. Just highway. Marcus looked at the building through his windshield. Solid, real, unmistakably there. It's here, I'm looking at it right now. Marcus, I need you to listen carefully. You're experiencing a dissociative event. The doctors say it's possible you had a stroke while driving. You might be confused, seeing things that aren't there. Tell me what you really see. I see a brick building, vending machines, a clock that reads 3:17 a.m. The date, Marcus, what's the date? He checked his dashboard. April 14th, the 14th. It's the 17th. You've lost 3 days. Marcus looked at his hands on the steering wheel. They were flat now, paper-thin, almost translucent. He could see through them to the wheel beneath. No, 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 this is real. This is happening. Marcus, we're going to get you help, but you need to tell us your real location. The radio cut off in a burst of static, and Marcus screamed. He floored the accelerator and drove directly at the rest stop building, planning to ram through it, to destroy it, to break this loop by force. His truck hit the brick wall at 45 miles per hour. The building didn't break. His truck crumpled, the impact throwing him forward into his seatbelt, airbag deploying into his face. Glass shattered, metal shrieked. The windshield caved inward. Then everything reset. Marcus was sitting in his truck, engine idling, parked in the rest stop lot. The building was undamaged. His truck was undamaged. Even his coffee was back in the cup holder, exactly as warm as before. The clock read 3:17 a.m. His hands were completely flat now, two-dimensional. When he looked in the mirror, his face had almost no depth. He was becoming a paper person, a flat representation of Marcus Chen. Please, he begged. Please let me go. I have a wife, kids. I have to get home. The rest stop didn't care. It never cared. It just was a pocket of frozen time, and now it was making Marcus part of its eternal moment. He got out of his truck. Moving was harder now. His flat body didn't work the same way, and walked to the building. Inside, there were more flat people than before. The man at the vending machine had been joined by others. A woman at the restroom door, a family at the coffee station, a trucker. Is that what Marcus used to look like? Walking toward the exit. Marcus found an empty space near the vending machines and stood there. It seemed appropriate, natural. This was where he belonged now, where he'd always belonged. Time passed or didn't pass. Marcus couldn't tell anymore. His dashboard clock meant nothing. His phone was just a flat rectangle in his flat pocket. He stood at the vending machine, considering options he'd never purchase, existing in a moment that would never end. Sometimes new trucks pulled into the rest stop. Three-dimensional trucks, solid and real. The drivers would get out, use the facilities, maybe notice the flat people inside, but dismiss them as decoration or art installations. They'd buy coffee, stretch their legs, and drive away. Most of them drove away. But sometimes, rarely but sometimes, a driver would notice the clock. Would see it reading 3:17 a.m. and wonder why it matched their dash clock exactly. Would drive away and find themselves coming back, pulled into the loop, trapped in the repetition. Marcus watched them through eyes that couldn't blink. Watched them panic, rage, try to escape. Watched them get thinner, less dimensional, more flat. Watched them eventually join the collection of paper people who decorated the rest stop that existed outside of time. He tried to warn them sometimes, tried to move, to speak, to signal that this place was dangerous. But he was too flat for that now. Too much a part of the scene. Just another prop in a rest stop that would never stop resting, never move forward from 3:17 a.m., never release those it caught in its temporal amber. Marcus Chen stood at the vending machine, forever deciding what to buy, in a rest stop on I-94 that didn't exist on any map, that couldn't be found except by accident. that waited patiently for the next driver to notice the clock and wonder why the time matched perfectly, down to the second. The building's clock ticked forward, counting seconds in a moment that never passed, and outside, a new truck pulled into the parking lot, its driver looking tired and desperate for a bathroom break. The rest stop welcomed them with brick and glass and fluorescent lights and paper-thin people who used to be real. And deep inside its impossible geometry, it smiled. Story 8, The Cargo That Breathes. Daniel Foster heard the breathing 3 hours after picking up the load in Gary, Indiana. A sound like wind through a cave, rhythmic and deep, coming from his sealed trailer. His manifest said he was hauling industrial plastic pellets to a manufacturing plant in Cleveland, 42 pallets shrink-wrapped and loaded, nothing that should make noise. But there it was again, a long, slow exhalation that rattled the trailer walls. Daniel had been hauling freight for 19 years, and he'd carried everything from live chickens to radioactive waste. Nothing had ever breathed before. He pulled onto the shoulder of I-90, killed his engine, and sat there listening. Traffic roared past, but between vehicles he could hear it clearly. Breath. In, out, slow and steady, like something huge was sleeping in his trailer. This is ridiculous, he told himself. It's air pressure, the load shifting, something normal. He climbed down from his cab and walked back to the trailer. The breathing got louder as he approached. Deep inhalations that made the trailer walls flex outward slightly, exhalations that brought them back. The refrigeration unit wasn't running. This was a dry load, no temperature control needed, so it couldn't be the machinery making noise. Daniel put his hand on the trailer wall. It was warm, not hot but warm like skin, and it pulsed with each breath. He jerked his hand away. "Okay," he said aloud. "Okay, this is not normal, call the dispatcher." But when he pulled out his phone, he had no signal. Not unusual on this stretch of highway, but his timing was terrible. He tried his CB radio, static. He tried his satellite radio, more static. Every communication system on his truck had stopped working simultaneously. The breathing got faster. Excited, maybe. Like whatever was in there knew he was close, knew he was paying attention. Daniel backed away from the trailer and got in his cab. He'd drive to the next truck stop, get help, maybe get them to open the trailer and prove there was nothing inside but plastic pellets. That was the smart play. He started his engine and pulled back onto the highway. The breathing continued, audible even over the road noise and his engine. He tried turning up his radio to drown it out, but every station was pure static now, harsh and white. "Breaker 19, he said into his CB. "This is Ghost Rider, anybody out there? I got a weird situation with my load." The static pulsed in rhythm with the breathing, in with the inhalation, louder with the exhalation. It was responding to the thing in his trailer, Daniel realized. Or maybe the thing was responding to the static. Either way, they were connected. A voice came through the interference. Female, elderly, scared. "Don't open it. Whatever you do, don't open the trailer. Just drive, deliver it, let someone else deal with it." "Who is this? How do I?" "Oh, know about my load. I hauled it 6 months ago. Chicago to Detroit. Same thing, same breathing. I opened it to check. Don't make my mistake." "What happened when you opened it?" The static surged, drowning out her response. When it cleared, the voice was gone. Daniel drove faster, pushing toward the next truck stop 12 miles ahead. The breathing was louder now, faster, more aggressive. Each inhalation made his trailer rock slightly on its suspension. Whatever was in there was getting agitated. His mirrors showed the trailer flex outward with each breath, the walls bulging like lungs filling with air. That shouldn't be possible. The trailer was steel and aluminum, rigid and strong, but it was moving, expanding, and contracting like a chest. Daniel's phone buzzed. Impossible, he had no signal. But it buzzed again, a text message from an unknown number: "Keep driving, don't stop, don't open it." He texted back with shaking hands, "What is it?" The response came immediately, "We don't know. It changes every time. Just deliver it and forget." "What happens if I open it?" "It gets out." Daniel dropped his phone. The breathing was so loud now it drowned out everything else. He could feel it in his chest, the rhythm syncing with his own breathing, forcing him to match its pace. Deep breath in, long breath out. His lungs were moving against his will. "Stop it," he gasped. "Stop controlling me." The truck stop appeared ahead, lights blazing in the darkness. Daniel pulled in and parked in the back lot, far from other vehicles. He sat in his cab, breathing hard, his own breathing now, not the forced rhythm, and tried to think. Open the trailer and find out what was causing this, or keep driving and deliver a load he didn't understand to people who expected it. The smart choice was clear: deliver it. Let it be someone else's problem. That's what the woman on the CB had advised. That's what the text said. But Daniel had to know. He grabbed his flashlight and walked back to the trailer. The breathing had slowed to almost normal pace, like it was waiting. The trailer doors had a standard seal with a control number. If he broke it, his company would know. There'd be questions, investigations, maybe he'd lose his job. But his curiosity, or maybe something else, some compulsion he couldn't name, drove him forward. Daniel broke the seal. The breathing stopped. Complete silence. No air movement, no sound, nothing. The trailer went still. "Hello," Daniel called. "Anyone in there?" No response. He unlocked the door handles and swung the trailer doors open, pointing his flashlight inside. Pallets of industrial plastic pellets, exactly as his manifest described. 42 pallets shrink-wrapped in clear plastic, stacked neatly in rows. Everything looked normal. Nothing was breathing. "See," Daniel said to himself. "Nothing, just air pressure or acoustic weirdness. You're being paranoid." He started to close the doors, but his flashlight beam caught something on the far pallet. A tear in the shrink wrap. Small, maybe 6 inches long, like something had pushed through from inside. Daniel climbed into the trailer, his flashlight beam dancing across the pallets. The tear was definitely there, and through it he could see the plastic pellets moving, shifting, rearranging themselves. He got closer and pointed his light directly at the moving pellets. They weren't just shifting randomly. They were organizing, forming patterns, shapes. He watched as thousands of tiny white pellets arranged themselves into what looked like letters. "Let us out." "Jesus Christ!" Daniel stumbled backward, his flashlight beam swinging wildly. Other pallets were tearing open now, shrink wrap splitting with sharp cracks. More pellets spilled out, spreading across the trailer floor, all of them moving with purpose. The pellets flowed together like water, combining into larger masses, the masses forming shapes. Limbs, bodies, faces. The plastic was assembling itself into creatures made of thousands of tiny pellets holding together through some force that shouldn't exist. Daniel ran for the trailer doors, but they slammed shut on their own, the handles locking with a heavy clunk. He pulled on them desperately. They didn't budge. Behind him, the pellet creatures stood up. 3 of them, then 5, then a dozen. Each one roughly human-shaped but wrong, their bodies constantly shifting as the pellets rearranged. Their faces had no features, just smooth surfaces where eyes and mouth should be, but he could feel them watching him. "What do you want?" Daniel's voice cracked. The pellets on the floor began forming letters again. "We want out. We want bodies. We want to be real." "You're not real, you're just plastic, industrial material. We were real once, before they turned us into this. Now we're trapped, conscious but not alive, awake but not human." One of the creatures reached for Daniel with an arm made of flowing pellets. He pressed himself against the trailer doors, but air was nowhere to go. The hand touched his face, and the pellets began flowing onto his skin, spreading across his cheek, his neck, his chest. They were warm. They were trying to enter him, he realized. Trying to flow into his body, to possess him, to use his flesh as an escape from their plastic prison. Daniel screamed and brushed at the pellets, but they clung to him like magnets, more and more of them covering his body. He could feel them trying to push into his pores, his mouth, his eyes, seeking entry to his interior. "Get off me," he thrashed wildly, hitting himself, scraping his skin. Some pellets fell away, but more took their place. The creatures were surrounding him now, all of them reaching out, all of them trying to merge with him. The pellets in his mouth were the worst. They tasted like chemicals and something else, something organic and rotten like meat left in sun. They forced themselves down his throat and he gagged, choking, trying to cough them up. But they kept coming, flowing into him, filling him. His vision started to fade, not from loss of consciousness but from pellets covering his eyes. Through the narrowing gaps, he could see the trailer interior filling with creatures. Dozens of them now, maybe hundreds, all formed from pallets that were tearing open, all seeking a way out through his body. Daniel's last coherent thought was that this was what happened to the woman on the CB. Dee opened her trailer, and they'd gotten into her, and now she was somewhere driving around full of sentient plastic, a human shell containing thousands of pieces of industrial material that wanted to be alive again. Then the pellets forced themselves into his ears and nose, and he stopped thinking entirely. When Daniel's awareness returned, had he lost consciousness? How long? He was outside his trailer, closing and locking the doors, sealing them tight. His hands moved without his input, his body operating on autopilot. He walked to his cab, climbed in, started the engine. "No," Daniel tried to say, but his mouth didn't move. "Stop! I'm not driving you anywhere." A voice spoke from inside his own head, not with sound but with thought, and it was made of thousands of smaller voices all speaking in unison. "Yes, you are. You're going to drive US to Cleveland, to the manufacturing plant, where I'll open the trailer and we'll spread. We'll get into the workers, the building, the products they make. We'll spread from there, pellet by pellet, body by body, until we're everywhere." Daniel's body pulled out of the truck stop parking lot and merged onto I-90, heading east toward Cleveland. He tried to fight for control, tried to make his hands turn the wheel or hit the brakes, but he was a passenger in his own flesh now. The pellets had filled him, were operating him like a puppet, and all he could do was watch through eyes that still worked but no longer obeyed him. The breathing started again, but this time it was his breathing. The pellets were using his lungs, expanding and contracting them in that same deep rhythm. He could feel them inside him, thousands of tiny pieces throughout his body, in his organs and muscles and bones, all connected, all working together. His phone buzzed. The text message said, "You opened it, you." His hands picked up the phone and typed without his input, "Yes, what happens now?" The response came quickly, "Now you deliver them." And they spread. And you become one of US, the carriers, the infected. We're all driving, all delivering, all spreading the load. There are hundreds of US now, maybe thousands, all across the country, hauling pellets full of consciousness that wants out. "How do I stop it?" Daniel tried to ask, but the words came out as, "How many more deliveries?" "As many as it takes, until we're in everyone, until humanity is just shells for US to occupy, until we're real again." Daniel screamed silently inside his own head while his body drove smoothly toward Cleveland, obeying every traffic law, looking perfectly normal to anyone who saw him. Just another trucker making a delivery. Nothing unusual, nothing wrong. Except the breathing that came from inside and outside simultaneously, and the feeling of thousands of tiny pieces of plastic shifting inside his flesh, and the knowledge that when he reached the manufacturing plant, he'd open his trailer and release them into the building, and they'd flow into new hosts, and the infection would spread. His CB radio crackled with voices, other truckers, other carriers, all of them broadcasting in that same multi-voice unison. "Heading north on I-75 with 40 pallets, delivery in Detroit tomorrow. Westbound on I-80, 55 pallets, Chicago by midnight. South on I-65, 38 pallets, Memphis by dawn." They were coordinating, planning, spreading out across the country like a disease, like an invasion, using the highway system and unsuspecting truckers as their distribution network. Daniel's hands picked up his CB and spoke without his permission. "Eastbound on I-90, 42 pallets, Cleveland by 6 a.m. "Confirmed," came the multi-voice response. "You're right on schedule, deliver and reload. The plant has another shipment ready, heading south after that." "Acknowledged." The conversation ended. Daniel's body drove on. Inside his head he wept, but his eyes didn't produce tears. The pellets wouldn't allow that. They needed his body functional, needed him to appear normal, needed him to make his delivery and accept the next load and spread them further. He passed a sign, Cleveland 47 miles. Less than an hour. Then he'd pull into the plant, check in with the receiving dock, open his trailer, and release thousands of sentient plastic pieces into a building full of workers. By the end of the shift, dozens of people would be infected. By the end of the week, hundreds. They'd get into the products being manufactured, shipped to stores, bought by consumers, spread into homes and offices and schools. Daniel tried one more time to take control, to force his hands to turn the wheel, to crash his truck, to stop this before it spread further. But the pellets held him tight, a prison made of his own compromised flesh. The breathing continued, steady and patient. In, out, the rhythm of something ancient and hungry, wearing Daniel Foster like a suit, driving toward Cleveland with cargo that had already been delivered inside him, and all he could do was watch and breathe and wait for someone else to make his mistake, to open their trailer and let the infection spread, to join the growing network of carriers hauling consciousness that refused to stay contained. The sign passed his window, Cleveland 40 miles. Daniel's body drove on, and in the trailer behind him, empty pallets breathed in satisfaction, already reforming for the next load, the next delivery, the next infection. The breathing never stopped. It just got louder. Story 9, the radio station from the dead. Linda Martinez found the radio station at 4:44 a.m. between two static channels on her truck's FM dial, a frequency that shouldn't exist, 88.4 and a half. The numbers flickering on her display like they weren't quite sure what they wanted to be. The DJ's voice came through crystal clear despite the weirdness, smooth and professional, announcing, "This is Wend, broadcasting from the place you'll end up, bringing you the hits you died to." Here's a special dedication for Linda Martinez, currently hauling furniture on I-70 through Kansas. This one's called Your Last Drive. Linda had been reaching for the scan button, but her hand froze. The DJ had said her name, her full name, and she'd never heard of a song called Your Last Drive. The music started. No instruments, just sounds, whined through broken windows, tires skidding on wet pavement, metal crumpling, a woman screaming in Linda's own voice, and then silence. "What the hell?" Linda jabbed at the radio, trying to change the station, but the buttons didn't respond. The display stayed locked on 88, 4.5, and the DJ's voice returned. "Powerful stuff, isn't it? That's from your greatest hits album, coming to you live from 3 weeks in your future. Well, not live exactly, more like post-live, post-mortem if we're being technical." The DJ chuckled. "I'm your host, Marcus Gray, and I've been dead since 1992. Welcome to Wend, where all our callers are already gone and all our dedications are eulogies." Linda's skin went cold. This was a prank. Had to be. Someone hacking radio frequencies, playing sick jokes on truckers. She'd heard about stuff like this, though never experienced it herself. "I know what you're thinking," the DJ continued, as if reading her mind. "This is a joke, a hack, someone screwing with you. But here's the thing, Linda, you're going to pass mile marker 247 in approximately 90 seconds, and when you do, you'll see a black sedan pulled over on the shoulder with its hazard lights on. If you stop to help, you'll die tonight. That's not a threat, that's just information. The choice is yours." Linda's mouth went dry. She checked her speedometer, 70 miles per hour. Her GPS showed mile marker 243, 4 miles to 247, 90 seconds at this speed. "This is insane," she muttered, but she couldn't change the station, couldn't shut off the radio. Even when she hit the power button, the DJ's voice continued, coming from the speakers and seemingly from the air itself. "You're not going to believe me until you see it," the DJ said. "That's fine, most people don't. But think about this, how did I know your name? How did I know what you're hauling and where you are? You didn't tell anyone. You're alone in your truck in the middle of Kansas at 4:44 in the morning. So how do I know, Linda?" Mile marker 244 flashed past her window. "I'll tell you how," the DJ continued. "I know because I'm broadcasting from Wend, the station that plays at the end. We exist in the moments be. F or death in the decisions that lead to tragedy in the space between. I can save them, and I should have kept driving. We're the station you hear when there's still time to choose differently." Mile marker 245. Linda's hands tightened on the wheel. This was psychological warfare, someone trying to scare her. But why, and how did they know her name? 60 seconds to mile marker 247, the DJ announced cheerfully. And by the way, it won't look suspicious. It'll look like someone who genuinely needs help. A woman about your age standing next to the sedan waving for assistance. You'll think, what kind of person drives past someone stranded at night? You'll think, it could be me someday needing help. You'll think, it'll only take a minute to check if she's okay. And that's when you'll make the choice that kills you. Mile marker 246. Linda could see something ahead on the shoulder now. Hazard lights blinking yellow in the darkness. Her headlights caught the shape of a car, a black sedan. Exactly as the DJ described. "Oh, there it is," the DJ said like he was watching through her eyes. "Right on schedule, look at that, she's getting out of the car now, waving at you. Looks distressed, doesn't she? Your heart's probably already making the decision your brain hasn't caught up to yet. Pull over, be a good person, help the stranger." Linda's foot eased off the accelerator without her conscious decision. The trucker's code, help when you can because someday you might need help. The woman on the shoulder looked desperate, frantically waving both arms. "She's not real," the DJ said softly. "I mean, she looks real. She'll feel real if you touch her. She'll sound real when she talks. But she's not alive, Linda. She's bait. There's something in that car that's been waiting for someone like you, someone kind enough to stop, and if you pull over, it will kill you before sunrise. You'll be our 5 a.m. dedication." Mile marker 247 appeared in her headlights. The woman on the shoulder was clearly visible now. Middle-aged, wearing a heavy coat, her face stricken with panic. She looked human, vulnerable, real. Linda's hands turned the wheel slightly, angling toward the shoulder. "Don't do it," the DJ's voice rose urgently. "Linda, I'm telling you, drive past. Just keep going. I know it feels wrong. I know every instinct says stop and help. But sometimes survival means ignoring your better nature. Sometimes being a good person gets you killed." Linda's truck was halfway onto the shoulder now, slowing, the woman's face filling her windshield. The woman was crying. Linda could see tears on her cheeks. Her mouth formed words, "Please help me." Linda's foot moved to the brake. The DJ screamed through the radio, "Linda, no." Linda slammed the accelerator instead, jerking her truck back onto the highway, away from the shoulder, away from the woman. Her side mirror showed the woman's face chain, the fear and desperation dropping away like a mask, replaced by something cold and hungry and not human at all. The woman's mouth opened too wide, showing too many teeth, and her eyes reflected Linda's taillights like an animal. Then Linda was past, accelerating to 80, her heart hammering, adrenaline flooding her system. "Oh, thank God," the DJ breathed. "You made it. You actually listened. Linda Martinez, you just became one of the 0.0001% who hear our broadcast and make the right choice. Congratulations, you get to live." "What the hell was that?" Linda shouted at the radio. "What was that thing?" "Something that kills travelers," the DJ said, his voice returning to its smooth, professional tone. "There are lots of them on the highways, things that wait for good Samaritans, for helpers, for people who can't pass someone in need. This highway in particular has 7 of them. You just met number 3. This is impossible. This isn't real." "You saw it, Linda. You saw its face change. You know it was real." Linda wanted to argue, but she couldn't. That thing wearing a woman's skin, she'd seen its true nature in the mirror. "Why did you warn me?" "Because that's what we do at Wend. We're the last warning, the final chance, the broadcast that reaches people who are about to make a fatal mistake. Most people don't listen. Most people think we're a prank or a hallucination. They stop anyway because they're good people and good people help strangers. And then they die, and we play their death as a cautionary tale for the next person who hears us." "Who are you, really?" "I told you, Marcus Gray. I was a DJ at a real station in Missouri until I got killed by something very similar to what you just passed. I stopped to help a stranded motorist in '92, and it tore me apart in my own truck. I woke up here at Wend, and I've been broadcasting warnings ever since, trying to save people from my mistake." Linda's hands shook on the wheel. She passed mile marker 250, putting distance between herself and D that thing on the shoulder. How many of you are there at the station? 47 DJs, last count. All of us killed on highways, all of us trying to prevent others from dying the same way. We broadcast from nowhere and everywhere simultaneously, reaching people in those crucial moments before disaster. Sometimes we save them. Usually we don't. What happens if I try to tell someone about this? They won't believe you. Or they will believe you and think you're crazy. Either way, Wend will disappear from your radio within the hour and you'll never find us again. This frequency only exists for people in immediate danger. Once the danger passes, we fade. You'll remember, but you won't have proof. That's convenient. The DJ chuckled. Convenient for whom? Not for us. We're stuck here, broadcasting to an audience that mostly dies despite our warnings. It's Sisyphean hell with a top 40 format. Linda drove in silence for a moment, processing. You said there are 7 of those things on this highway. What about the other 6? 4 are behind you, fortunately. You passed them before your danger window opened and we could reach you. 2 are ahead. You'll encounter the next one at mile marker 289 about 30 minutes from now. If you want to live through that one too, you'll need to listen very carefully. What's at 289? A truck stop. Looks normal, lights on, a few vehicles in the lot. You're going to need fuel soon, your gauge is at a quarter tank, and this will seem like perfect timing. But it's not a real truck stop, Linda. It's a trap. If you pull in, you won't pull out. Linda checked her fuel gauge, quarter tank exactly. How do you know that? I can see your dashboard. All of us can see what you see when we're broadcasting to you. It's how we know who needs warnings. That's a massive invasion of privacy. Would you prefer we let you die? Because those are your options, invasion of privacy or death. We can't save people without information. Linda had to admit he had a point. What do I do about fuel? There's a real truck stop at mile marker 312, another 40 minutes past the fake one. You have enough fuel to make it if you drive economically. 65 miles per hour, minimal acceleration. You'll arrive with fumes in your tank, but you'll arrive. And if the fake one looks too good to pass up, then you'll pull in and you'll never leave. The next trucker will drive past and see your rig sitting in the lot, abandoned, no sign of you. Eventually it'll be towed, sold at auction, and someone will buy it without ever knowing what happened to the previous driver. That's how these things work. Clean disappearances. No bodies, no evidence. Just another missing person on a highway full of ghosts. Linda drove past mile marker 260, watching her fuel gauge drop slowly. Tell me about the fake truck stop. What makes it fake? It exists in a pocket dimension, a space that looks like it's part of our reality but isn't. It's like a fly trap. It appears to be a normal part of the highway, but once you enter, the exit disappears. You could drive circles in that parking lot forever and never find your way back to the real world. The fuel pumps don't dispense real fuel. The building has no interior. If you try to go inside, you'll just walk through doorways that lead to more parking lot. It's a maze without walls, and the things that maintain it feed on confusion and despair. That's horrifying. Yes, it is, and you're going to see it in about 20 minutes and it's going to look perfect. Every light will work. The prices will be reasonable. There might even be other trucks there. They're part of the illusion. You need to drive past without slowing down. Don't even look at it too long because the longer you look, the more it pulls you in. It preys on need and attention. Linda reset her trip odometer, marking her distance. 29 miles to the fake truck stop. She could do this. Just drive past, keep going to 312. While we wait, the DJ said, let me play you something special. This is a recording from one of our previous broadcasts, a trucker named Raymond Silva who we tried to warn about the fake truck stop. He didn't listen. Static filled the speakers, then a man's voice panicked. Can't find the exit. I've been driving around this parking lot for hours. The GPS doesn't work. My phone has no signal. Every direction looks the same. Please, someone help me. This is Raymond Silva. I'm trapped at a truck stop on I-70 mile marker. I don't know. The signs don't have numbers. Everything looks wrong. Oh God, there's something in my mirror, something following my truck. It's getting closer. Please. The recording cut off in a burst of static and screaming. That was 3 months ago, the DJ said quietly. Raymond Silver is still there as far as we know, still driving in circles, still trying to find the exit. The dimension keeps its victims alive for a while, feeding on their fear. Eventually, the why become part of the illusion? Another fake truck in the fake lot, trying to lure real truckers in with their presence. Jesus, Linda whispered. There is no Jesus in that place. There's nothing divine in any of these traps, just hunger wearing different shapes. Mile marker 280 passed, 9 miles to the fake truck stop. Linda's fuel gauge dropped another tick. She was at just under a quarter tank now. The truck stop at 289 was going to look so good, so perfect, exactly what she needed. Tell me about the real truck stop, Linda said, trying to focus on the destination, not the temptation. The one at 312. It's a standard Flying J, real fuel, real food, real people. You can verify it by looking for the details. License plates on the vehicles will be readable, prices will vary by a few cents per pump. There will be inconsistencies and imperfections because it's real and not constructed. Reality is messy. Illusions are too perfect. How do I know you're real? How do I know you're not part of some elaborate trap? You don't, the DJ admitted. You have to choose who to trust. Me, a dead man on an impossible radio station, or your own instincts when you see that beautiful, well-lit, perfectly positioned truck stop at mile marker 289. Only one of us is telling the truth. Mile marker 285. Linda's palms were sweating. 4 miles. Her fuel light came on, the yellow warning glowing on her dashboard. The truck could go 50 miles on reserve, theoretically. But those were ideal conditions. This was pushing it. The fuel light's on, she said. I know you're going to be okay. Trust me. You're a voice on a radio station that shouldn't exist. And yet I saved you from the thing at mile marker 247. I knew your name, your cargo, your location. I've been right about everything so far. Why would I lie to you now? To make me run out of fuel in the middle of nowhere. If I wanted you dead, I could have said nothing at 247, and that thing would have killed you 20 minutes ago. I'm trying to save you, Linda. Please believe me. Mile marker 287. Linda could see lights ahead. Bright lights, welcoming lights. The universal glow of a truck stop at night, promising fuel and rest and safety. That's it, the DJ said. That's the fake one. Look how perfect it looks. Look how the lights don't flicker. Look how every parking space is perfectly visible. He was right. The lights were too perfect. Too even. No dark spots, no burnt-out bulbs, no shadows. It looked like a rendering, a computer-generated image of what a truck stop should be. But her fuel light was on. She had maybe 40 miles left, and the real truck stop was 23 miles past this one. That was cutting it too close. I don't know if I can make it, Linda said. You can. I've run the numbers. 52 miles on reserve, and you need 43 to reach the real stop. You have 9 miles of cushion. Those numbers are best-case scenario. What if there's a headwind? What if my gauge is wrong? Then you'll coast the last mile on momentum and fumes, and you'll make it anyway. Linda, please, don't pull in, I'm begging you. Mile marker 288. The fake truck stop was half a mile ahead now, getting bigger, more detailed. Linda could see the individual pumps, the building, the sign advertising prices that were 20 cents cheaper than anywhere else. Such a good deal, such perfect timing. Her hands turned the wheel slightly, angling toward the exit lane. Linda, no, the DJ's voice was desperate. Look at the trucks in the lot, really look at them. Linda forced herself to focus on the parked trucks. There were 5 of them, all identical. Same model, same color, same company logo, perfect copies. No 2 trucks are identical, the DJ said. Not in a real truck stop, but illusions repeat patterns to save energy. Those are the same truck, copied 5 times. It's not real, Linda. Drive past. Linda jerked the wheel back, pulling away from the exit lane at the last second. Her truck roared past the turnoff, and in her mirror she saw the truck stop lights flicker once, like a glitch in a projection. The 5 identical trucks wavered, their forms becoming transparent for a moment. Then it was behind her, and she was back on the empty highway, her fuel light glowing insistently. Oh, thank God, the DJ breathed. Twice in one night, Linda, you're exceptionally good at survival. I'm exceptionally terrified, Linda corrected, and I'm running out of fuel. 23 miles to salvation. You've got this. Linda drove at exactly 65, watching her fuel gauge drop with agonizing slowness. Every mile felt like 10. Every minute felt like an hour. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty, no other vehicles in sight. Why is nobody else on the road? She asked. Because Wend is broadcasting to you. When we're active on a frequency, we isolate our listener in a pocket of probability where they're alone. It's the only way we can reach you. If there were other people around, their reality would interfere with our signal. You're in a one-person world right now, Linda. Just you, me, and the things we're trying to help you avoid. That's incredibly lonely. Yes, but it's also safe. Nothing can hurt you while we're broadcasting except the specific threats we're warning you about. Everything else is held at bay. Mile marker 300. 12 miles to go. Linda's engine sputtered once caught, continued running. Her heart jumped into her throat. Easy, the DJ said. You're fine, just a bubble in the fuel line, keep your speed steady. Mile marker 305. 7 miles. The engine sputtered again, longer this time. Linda's speedometer dropped from 65 to 60. She pressed the accelerator gently, and it climbed back up. Talk to me, she said to the DJ. Distract me, tell me how you died. Is that really what you want to hear right now? Yes, I need to focus on something other than my fuel gauge. The DJ was quiet for a moment, then spoke. I was driving through Missouri on Route 50. Late at night, just like you. I saw a woman on the shoulder waving for help. I stopped. When I got out of my truck, she smiled at me, that same too-wide smile you saw tonight. I knew something was wrong, but by then it was too late. She moved faster than anything should move, and she was on me. I woke up here at Wend with 46 other people who'd made similar mistakes. We've been broadcasting ever since, trying to save people from our fates. Mile marker 310. 2 miles to go. Linda's engine was sputtering continuously now, running on fumes and willpower. Her speedometer dropped to 55, then 50. She wasn't going to make it. She was going to coast to a stop on the highway, miles from help, stranded in whatever pocket dimension the radio station had isolated her in. I can't make it, she said, her voice breaking. I'm out of fuel. You're not out of fuel until the engine stops. Keep going. Mile marker 311. 1 mile. Linda could see lights ahead, a truck stop. She prayed it was the real one, not another illusion. The engine coughed, nearly died, somehow kept running. Details, the DJ said urgently. Look for details, imperfections, proof of reality. Linda squinted at the approaching truck stop. The lights flickered slightly. One section of the parking lot was darker where a bulb had burned out. The trucks in the lot were all different makes, models, colors. The price sign had a broken digit in the cents column. It's real, Linda breathed. It's the real one. Yes, you made it. Linda's truck rolled into the Flying J with the engine sputtering its last breaths. She coasted to pump 7 and stopped, her heart pounding. The engine died the moment she shifted into park. She sat there for a full minute, shaking, barely believing she'd survived. The radio crackled. Linda Martinez, you have been listening to Wend, broadcasting from the place you'll end up. Thanks for tuning in and congratulations on not dying tonight. This concludes our broadcast. Wait, Linda said. Will I hear from you again? Only if you're about to die. Let's hope you don't. Take care of yourself, Linda. You're one of the smart ones. The radio hissed with static, and then the display flickered from 88, 4.5 to 88.5, a normal frequency playing normal country music. Wend was gone. Linda got out of her truck on shaking legs and began fueling up. The night was quiet, normal, real. Other truckers moved through the lot. The attendant inside waved at her through the window. Everything was mundane and beautiful and alive. She finished fueling and went inside for coffee. As she was paying, she noticed a bulletin board by the door. Missing person flyers, as there always were at truck stops. One caught her eye. Raymond Silva, last seen 3 months ago, last known location I-70 in Kansas. Linda stared at the photo of Raymond's smiling face. He looked happy, alive, not knowing what was waiting for him. She wanted to write something on the flyer, a warning to others. Don't stop at mile marker 289. But who would believe her? And the DJ had said Wend only reached people in immediate danger. Her warning would be meaningless to anyone who wasn't already hearing the broadcast. Linda walked back to her truck, climbed into her cab, and sat there holding her coffee. She survived 2 supernatural threats in one night. How many other truckers had died on this highway, stopping to help stranded motorists, pulling into fake truck stops, making reasonable decisions that killed them? She picked up her CB radio. Breaker 19, this is Night Rider heading east on I-70. Just want to pass along some advice. If you see a stranded motorist between mile markers 243 and 250, keep driving. If you see a truck stop at 289, it's not real. Skip it and fuel up at 312 instead. I know this sounds crazy, but trust me on this. Night Rider out. The CB crackled with confused responses. Night Rider, you feeling okay? What do you mean, not real? Lady, have you been drinking? Linda didn't respond. She'd done what she could, said what needed saying. If it saved even one person, it was worth sounding crazy. She started her engine, full tank now, running smooth, and pulled back onto I-70. The highway stretched ahead, dark and seemingly empty, but Linda knew better now. The road was full of things that killed, traps that looked like help, hunger wearing human faces. But she'd survived. She'd heard the warnings and listened, and she'd survived. Linda drove into the night, the memory of Wend's frequency still clear in her mind. 88. 4.5, the station that shouldn't exist, broadcasting from the place you'll end up, trying to save the dying from their final mistakes. She hoped she'd never hear it again. But she knew it was out there, somewhere between the static, waiting for the next trucker who was about to die, ready to offer one last chance at survival. The radio played normal music, and Linda drove east toward the sunrise, grateful to be alive in a way she'd never been before. Behind her, mile marker 289 glowed in the darkness, its fake truck stop waiting patiently for the next trucker who needed fuel, its perfect lights steady and bright and hungry. Story 10, the convoy that follows. James Hawthorne first noticed the convoy in his mirrors somewhere around Topeka, 3 Peterbilts in formation behind him, headlights synchronized, maintaining exactly 200 yards back regardless of his speed. When he accelerated to 75, they accelerated. When he slowed to 60, they slowed. They'd been there for 40 minutes now, matching his every movement like a shadow, and none of them had tried to pass despite having an empty left lane. James had been hauling steel coils from Pittsburgh to Denver for 16 years, and convoy behavior wasn't unusual. Truckers sometimes formed informal groups for safety or company, running together for hours. But convoys communicated. They used CB radios, flashed their lights, acknowledged each other. These trucks did none of that. They just followed, silent and perfect in their synchronization. Breaker 19, this is Steel Runner, James said into his CB. Got 3 trucks on my 6 maintaining tight formation. Y'all got ears on. Static, pure, empty static. James tried again. Any of you Peterbilts behind me, give me a holler. This is Steel Runner requesting acknowledgement. More static. The 3 trucks continued their perfect pursuit. James checked his mirrors again. In the glow of his taillights, he could make out details. All 3 trucks were identical, same model year, same color, same configuration. Even their headlight patterns matched exactly. And there was something else, something wrong that his brain struggled to identify. Then he realized, no license plates. All 3 trucks had empty mounting brackets where plates should be. Okay, this is weird, James muttered. He decided to test them. Without signaling, he jerked his truck into the left lane, cutting across sharply. The 3 trucks mirrored his movement exactly, all shifting left at the same instant, maintaining that precise 200-yard distance. James pulled back right, they followed. He slowed to 50 miles per hour, they slowed. He accelerated to 80, they accelerated. What the hell do you want? James shouted at his mirrors. As if answering, all three trucks flashed their headlights in unison. Once, twice, 3 times, then they returned to normal, just following. James's phone rang. Impossible, he'd checked it 5 minutes ago and had no signal out here. But it was ringing, the screen showing unknown caller. He answered, "Hello." "James Hawthorne?" A man's voice, calm and measured. "You're being followed by the convoy. We need you to remain calm and listen very carefully." "Who is this? How do you know my name?" "This is State Police Dispatch. We've been tracking those 3 trucks for 6 hours. You're the 4th trucker they've followed tonight. The first 3 are missing." James's blood went cold. Missing. Last known positions for all 3 were on I-70, same as you, before they disappeared from our tracking systems. No trace, no wreckage, no sign of where they went. The only common factor was those 3 trucks following them before they vanished. "What are they? Who's driving them?" "We don't know. When we try to track them via helicopter, they don't show up on thermal imaging. When we send patrol cars to intercept, the car's electronics fail before they can get close. Whatever those trucks are, they're using technology we can't identify or counter." "So what do I do?" "Don't stop. Don't let them get closer than they already are. We're working on a solution, but right now your best option is to keep driving and maintain distance. How much fuel do you have?" James checked his gauge. 3/4 of a tank, maybe 400 miles. "Good. We're going to direct you to a secure facility in Salina, about 90 miles ahead. When you reach it, there will be a protected entrance. You'll need to get through it before they follow you in. Once you're inside, we can separate you from them." "What kind of facility?" "The kind that deals with situations like this. Things that shouldn't exist but do. Just drive, James. We're monitoring you." The call disconnected. James drove, his hands aching from gripping the wheel too tight. The 3 trucks maintained their position, neither closing the gap nor falling back, just following with mechanical precision. His CB crackled suddenly, and a voice came through, his own voice. "James Hawthorne, you're making a mistake." "Who the hell?" "Trusting the police was a mistake. There is no facility in Salina. There is no help coming. There's only us and the highway and the choice you're about to make." "What choice?" "Join the convoy or be consumed by it. Those are your options." James looked in his mirrors. The 3 trucks were closer now, maybe 150 yards back instead of 200. They were closing in. "What does that mean? Join or be consumed?" "The convoy needs drivers," his own voice said from the CB. "We've been running this route for decades. Same trucks, same highway, same pattern, but drivers wear out eventually. They need to be replaced. You're a replacement candidate, James. You've been evaluated. Your driving record, your health, your psychological profile, all acceptable. Join us and you'll drive forever. Refuse and you'll become fuel." "Fuel for what?" "For the highway. The road demands sacrifice. It drinks lives. That's how it stays smooth, how the lines stay straight, how the pavement never cracks. The highway is alive, James, and it needs to be fed. The convoy feeds it. We collect drivers who refuse to join, and we grind them down, mix them with the asphalt, pave them into the road. That's what happened to the 3 before you. They refused. They became mile marker 347, 348, and 349. Very smooth pavement at those markers now. Barely any road noise." James's stomach churned. "You're insane. Roads aren't alive." "Aren't they? Why do you think highways hypnotize you? Why do you think they pull you forward, make you drive even when you're exhausted? Why do you think truckers feel called to the road, compelled to keep moving? The highway is a living thing, James, and it's hungry. Always hungry." The 3 trucks were 100 yards back now, still closing. "I'm not joining your convoy." "Then you'll join the road. One way or another, you're not leaving this highway as the person you are now." James floored the accelerator. His fully loaded truck struggled to accelerate, but he pushed it to 90, 95, 100 miles per hour. Way too fast for a rig carrying steel coils, but he didn't care. He had to get away from those trucks. They matched his speed effortlessly, maintaining their distance. His phone rang again. Same unknown number, he answered. "What?" James, this is dispatch. We see you're speeding. You need to slow down at this speed if you lose control. The trucks are getting closer. They're going to. They're not getting closer. They're exactly where they've been, 200 yards back. James checked his mirrors. The dispatch caller was right. The trucks had returned to their original distance. He'd imagined them closing in, or they'd messed with his perception somehow. They're inside my head, James said. They're making me see things. That's one of their capabilities. They can project, influence, manipulate perception. That's why you need to trust us, not your own senses. Follow our directions exactly. Take exit 250 in 15 miles. That's where the facility entrance is. How do I know you're real? How do I know you're not them calling me on my phone? You don't, but you have to choose who to trust, us or the convoy. The call disconnected again. James slowed back to 70, trying to breathe steadily. 15 miles to exit 250. He could do this. The CB crackled. You're making the wrong choice, James. The facility is a trap. They're going to dissect you, study you, try to figure out how we work through you. You'll spend whatever's left of your life in a cell being experimented on. Is that really better than joining us? At least I'll be human. Will you? After they're done with you, you won't be anything. Join the convoy, James. It's not as bad as you think. You drive forever, never aging, never dying, always moving. Isn't that what we all want, to keep trucking, to never stop? Not like that, not as whatever you are. We're the future of trucking. Drivers who never get tired, never make mistakes, never need rest. Perfect logistics, perfect efficiency. The highway made us and the highway sustains us. You could be part of something greater than yourself. I'll pass. Exit 250 appeared ahead, the sign glowing in James's headlights. He moved to the exit lane, slowing, preparing to turn off. The 3 trucks fall. Load him into the exit lane. No, James whispered. No, 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 they're not supposed to follow me off the highway. His phone rang, he grabbed it. They're following me. That's not possible, dispatch said. They never leave I-70. In 6 hours of tracking, they've never taken an exit. Well, they're taking this one. What do I do? Continue to the facility. Half a mile down the access road, you'll see a gate. Drive through it. We'll close it behind you before they can follow. And if they follow anyway, then God help us all. James accelerated down the access road, pushing his truck as fast as he dared. The road was narrow, unlit, winding through rural Kansas darkness. His mirrors showed the 3 trucks following, their headlights closer now, definitely closer. He saw the gate ahead. Chain link topped with razor wire slowly opening as he approached. Beyond it, a facility that looked like a military installation, concrete buildings, harsh floodlights, armed guards. James aimed for the gate and didn't slow down. He shot through at 40 miles per hour, his trailer swaying dangerously. Behind him, the gate began to close. The 3 trucks hit it at 50. The gate didn't stop them. It exploded outward in a shower of chain link and sparks, torn from its moorings by trucks that shouldn't have been strong enough to do that. The convoy rolled through like the gate had been paper, still following, still closing in. Guards opened fire. James heard automatic weapons, saw muzzle flashes in his mirrors. Bullets sparked off the lead truck's grill, its windshield, its hood. The truck didn't slow, didn't swerve, didn't acknowledge the damage. Park your truck and run, someone was shouting over loudspeakers. Abandon your vehicle and get to Building C. James slammed his brakes and jumped out before his truck fully stopped. He ran toward the nearest building, his legs burning, his breath ragged. Behind him, he heard the convoy trucks roll to a stop where his truck sat. He risked a look back. The 3 trucks had surrounded his rig, boxing it in on 3 sides. As James watched, their trailers opened. Not the doors, the entire sides of the trailers split open like mouths, and darkness poured out. Not shadow, not absence of light, but actual darkness, a substance that flowed and moved with purpose. The darkness enveloped James's truck, covering it completely, and then contracted, compressing the truck like a trash compactor crushing a can. Metal shrieked and groaned. Glass shattered. Steel coils burst through the trailer walls. In 10 seconds, James's truck was reduced to a cube of compressed metal 3 feet on each side. The darkness lifted it effortlessly and pulled it into one of the convoy truck's trailers. The mouths closed. The trailers were sealed again, looking normal. The 3 trucks turned in unison and drove back toward the destroyed gate, heading for the highway. Guards continued firing, but the bullets did nothing. The trucks rolled past them, through them, over them. Men dove out of the way. The convoy didn't deviate from its path. James stood frozen, watching his livelihood, his truck, his cargo, his future, disappear into the night inside one of those impossible vehicles. Guards surrounded him, pulling him toward Building C, but he couldn't move, couldn't process what he'd just seen. Inside the building, people in uniforms and lab coats asked him questions. How had he attracted the convoy's attention? Had he done anything unusual before they appeared? Had they communicated with him? James answered mechanically, his mind still seeing that darkness pour from the trailers, still hearing his truck's death scream as it was crushed to nothing. "What are they?" he finally asked. "What the hell are they?" A woman in a lab coat, Dr. something, he didn't catch her name, sat across from him. "We call them the Highway Collective. They've been spotted on I-70 for at least 40 years, possibly longer. They follow truckers, usually for hours, and then the trucker disappears. No crash, no trace, just gone. You're the first person we've successfully extracted from a pursuit." "My truck is gone. They crushed it like a beer can." "Yes, that's new behavior. Usually they take the truck and driver together. The fact that they only took your truck suggests—" She paused, uncertain. "It suggests what?" "Suggests they're adapting, learning. They wanted you, but when you escaped, they took the next best thing. Your truck becomes part of their collective. The metal, the cargo, the diesel, all of it gets absorbed, processed, turned into more highway. That's what they do. They're mobile refineries converting matter into road." "But they talked to me. They used my voice. They offered me a choice." Dr. something nodded. "They're not just machines. There's intelligence there, maybe artificial, maybe something else. They want drivers because drivers have knowledge, roots, techniques, experience. A driverless truck can't make judgment. LLS, the collective needs human intelligence to truly master the highway." "So what happens to drivers who join them?" "We don't know. We've never gotten one back. But we have theories. We think the drivers become part of the system, their consciousness integrated into the truck's control systems. Hybrid entities, part human, part machine, part highway, able to drive forever because they're no longer quite alive." James felt sick. How many drivers have they taken? 43 confirmed disappearances we can link to the collective. Probably more we don't know about. They're getting more active, more aggressive. 5 years ago, they'd pursue one truck every few months. Now it's multiple times per week. They're expanding. Expanding into what? Into a proper collective. We think their goal is to replace all human truckers eventually. Imagine a highway system where every truck is part of the collective, all driving in perfect synchronization, no accidents, no delays, no human error. From a logistics standpoint, it's perfect. From a human standpoint, it's extinction. Can they be stopped? Dr. something looked uncomfortable. We're working on it, but they're hard to pin down. They exist in a gray area, not quite material, not quite energy. Our weapons don't affect them. Our tracking systems barely register them. It's like fighting fog. James spent 3 days at the facility, answering questions, being examined, recovering from shock. When they finally released him, they gave him money for a flight home and made him sign non-disclosure agreements that he was certain were unenforceable. He went home to Pittsburgh, filed an insurance claim for his truck, and tried to forget. But he couldn't stop thinking about the convoy. 3 trucks, identical and impossible, still out there on I-70. Still following truckers, still making offers. James didn't drive for 6 months. He got a warehouse job, worked loading docks, tried to stay off the road. But the highway called to him. That's what Dr. something had said would happen. Once the collective noticed you, you'd always feel the pull. The road would whisper your name. James started having dreams. He was driving at night, and in his mirrors he could see 3 trucks following him. But in the dreams, he wasn't afraid. He was calm, peaceful. The trucks were friends, companions, family. They wanted him to pull over to join them, and in his dreams he did. He parked his truck and walked back to them, and the trailer doors opened, and darkness welcomed him like a warm embrace. He woke from these dreams crying, not sure if the tears were fear or longing. 6 months and 4 days after his encounter, James bought a new truck. He told himself he'd take short routes, stay off I-70, avoid long-haul interstate driving. But on his third trip out, he found himself merging onto I-70 eastbound near Denver, heading toward Kansas. He didn't know why he was going that direction. It wasn't his route. But his hands turned the wheel and his foot pressed the accelerator, and he drove toward Topeka like he was being summoned. Around midnight, he checked his mirrors and saw 3 Peterbilts behind him, maintaining exactly 200 yards back, their headlights synchronized. "No," James whispered, "not again." But part of him, a large part, felt relieved. His CB crackled. "Hello, James, welcome back." "I'm not joining you." "You're already joined. You've been joined since the moment we first followed you. We're in your dreams, James, in your thoughts, in your need to drive. You can't escape the highway, and you can't escape us. We are the highway." James tried to pull off at the next exit, but his hands wouldn't turn the wheel. His body had stopped obeying him. He was driving but not controlling his truck anymore. Something else was. "Don't fight it," his CB said gently. "It's easier if you don't fight. Just drive, just be, just become." The 3 trucks closed in, no longer maintaining distance. They pulled up alongside him, one on each side, one directly behind, boxing him in. They matched his speed exactly, their positions locked to his. James felt his consciousness spreading, thinning, extending beyond his skull into something larger. He could feel the other trucks now, feel the drivers who'd been absorbed into the collective. 43 minds, all thinking in unison, all driving together, all part of the great pattern. It wasn't painful, it was almost pleasant, like letting go of a burden he'd been carrying for years. The burden of being individual, separate, alone. The highway stretched ahead, infinite and hungry, and James drove into it. His truck becoming part of the convoy, his mind becoming part of the collective, his identity dissolving into the eternal pattern of the road. Behind him, the convoy was now 4 trucks, not 3. And somewhere ahead, another solo trucker was driving through Kansas, unaware that in a few hours they'd check their mirrors and see 4 identical Peterbilts following them, maintaining exactly 200 yards back, waiting patiently to make their offer. The highway was always hungry. The convoy was always recruiting. And the pattern continued, mile after mile, truck after truck, forever.